9BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Sport Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win a Super Bowl.
So you can ask the Buffalo Bills how important Super Bowl experience is.
Mike Danger.
Putting my foot down, I have an unpopular opinion. I'm sure a lot of people will find it to be an unpopular opinion. I don't care.
Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, that's you're all fired up for June football, everybody. Yeah, that's some really A-plus coach speak.
I miss Chubby Tour, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Amerks Hockey.
Michael Young, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
Because he's Italian!
Don Stevens. The Stanley Cup Final, the NBA Finals. JJ Redick, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
I am not his running mate anymore.
WNBA refs now taking heat for a quick ejection of Angel Reese last night. Reese got back-to-back techs in the fourth quarter.
Really? If you build it, they will come, right? So we are going to test our mental fortitude this week, boys.
We need some tears. Oh, we need some prayers. Can we get some prayers? Oh, we see some prayers. Give me some tears. Can we get some tears? We get some tears? Okay, we don't have any tears. I mean, look who you're catering to here. This is
The Sports Bar. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester.
a very good afternoon to you as we welcome you into Rochester's only local sports talk show. You found the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. You ever wound yourself and not realize that you've wounded yourself?
That's a good question. What did you do?
I don't like to talk about myself. Will you allow me just this one time? Dad run this morning. Get done with it. Today is International Running Day, by the way. Get a nice little award in my Apple Watch for running today. I take off my shoes after my dad run. I look at my sock. It's soaked in blood.
Would you get a blister? Something?
Not from running.
Oh.
I had, so Sunday, before we got on the air, the rain's coming down. She's like, I didn't even know it was raining. I'm like, yeah, I need the rain. I did a little weed and feed on Sunday. The granules are sticking to the weeds. I got to get some water on the lawn so that it'll. When I was fertilizing the lawn on Sunday, I wore shoes I don't normally wear, and it was not like a big, painful blister. It was just a small little blister. I didn't really think much of it. It didn't really affect me or bother me or anything. And I actually went for a run, the day after, and everything was fine. For whatever reason, this morning, I look at my foot, and I'm like, oh my God, my sock is like covered in blood. It looked worse than that fraud Schilling. Remember the bloody sock incident? Yeah. Oh, that was such a heroic performance. I'm like, hey, not to take anything away from that performance, but your boy ran a 5K plus this morning. My sock was bled all the way through. Wounded myself. Didn't even realize I was wounded. Now I got to watch myself. I got to make sure I don't. I'm wearing Jimmy's shoes today. Patsos' shoes.
No. You're wearing Jimmy's shoes and you were bleeding.
I'm being very, very careful, very cautious. Can't ruin those shoes. Jimmy Patsos' shoes that he sent us from Under Armour, and but I was shocked. I'm like, wait a minute. Do you think Schilling even knew that his sock was bleeding? He probably had no idea.
What is the top conspiracy theory that you would subscribe to? And I think this is topical because on a recent podcast, Danica Patrick went on the former auto race driver, and on this podcast and said, "Nah, we never landed anybody on the moon."
Ooh.
Like she believed that one.
Ooh.
I'm not going to go that far, but knowing Kurt Schilling, knowing he's a showman, knowing he's kind of a shyster, I don't believe that was actual blood. Well, I subscribe to that theory.
Even if it was, though, today's evidence that even if it was blood, so what? Oh, congratulations! You could have had a little blister, because this blister on the back of my leg on my Achilles where this bled through. It's not like it was a big, painful, powerful blister. It was like a little blister that, for whatever reason, was irritated enough where it's just blood everywhere.
The difference between you and Kurt Schilling was, Danger, that nobody thought Schilling would pitch in that game because he was injured. And then he was out on the mound. And then he's showing his grit and everything else.
Remind me what his injury was.
Something to do with a ligament in his ankle. Some Sox fan would tell me. All right. And he was all of a sudden, nope, not going to pitch. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. Which with an injury like that,
and then the blood,
the supposed blood, as I would say. This would be as if you were saying, "Oh my gosh, I cannot do a run on International Running Day," but there you are out there. Would be like, "Yeah."
Didn't even think twice about the small blister that I acquired on Sunday night fertilizing my lawn when I went for my run this morning, and I looked down. I'm like, Jesus, this sock is ruined. I can't do anything with this. It looks terrible. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I had no idea. And so there, if Schilling. If the bloody sock incident was real, it could have just been a little blister that, like, okay, why? What's the big deal? If I can run a dad run and bleed through my sock, am I better than Kurt Schilling? Is Kurt Schilling better than me?
Hey, have we ever seen the sock? Has anybody seen it? Has anybody tested the sock?
Now, to answer your question, I'll give you my answer. I think you already know what it is. I mean, I joke.
What, that we don't have an NBA? We never had an NBA team in Rochester?
I joke about that. I hope everybody knows that when you bring it up and I joke about it,
they don't understand.
I get it. Like, I know we had a professional football team. I know we had a professional basketball team. But there is one sports story that I look at and I'm like, I don't know if I buy that entirely.
Okay. Does it have to do with somebody holding up a little piece of paper that says 100?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Wilt scoring 100? Get out of here.
Daniel, there were people there.
Where are they? Just got a picture of Wilt holding a sign saying 100. Now everybody believes that he scored 100 in a game. Get out of here. Where was the game played?
It was played in
Hershey, of all places. No way. Get out of here with that. I'm not buying that for a second. You go sell that somewhere else and a guy could score 100 points in an NBA game. Wilt, stop it.
Okay. Do you subscribe? Boy, this is the beauty of the sports bar, especially in the month of June. We can kind of loosen it up here a little bit. Do you subscribe, Mike Danger, to the sports conspiracy theory that the 1985 NBA draft was fixed, that was actually David Stern reaching around, trying to find the frozen envelope, and the Knicks won the lottery?
No, I don't buy into that conspiracy. No.
Gotta watch the video.
I don't buy into the, this was rigged or that was rigged or this league is rigged or I don't buy into any of that. But the Wilt thing to me is funny because the iconic picture is just him holding the sign that says 100. And I don't know, is there footage from that game? Did anybody roll tape on that game? Do we have photos from that game other than Wilt holding up 100? I don't buy it. I'm not buying into it. Until I see somebody actually score 100 in an NBA game, I'm going to say that's made up.
So what you're saying is that the newspaper reports that day, the box score was just all made up in an effort to publicize the league. And they moved the game to some outpost city named
Guys
Hershey.
were probably drunk when they were taking score, like they thought he scored 100. He didn't really score 100. He's just holding up a sign afterwards. Hey, this will look good for the game. Hold up a sign that says 100 and we'll show this guy, this freak just scored 100 points in an NBA game. You got to come see it. I don't buy it.
Look, we hit on something. Peter's already put up a poll. Biggest sports conspiracy theory. Wilt 100 points, Schilling bloody sock, NBA draft, other.
That's our official pollster on X there, Peter, one of our regulars. You can also engage with us on X at The Fan Rochester. We do have a great show lined up for you today. We'll just start with a little conversation. It's fine. But we have great conversation coming up with Anthony Cosenza, who is the host of the Orange and Black Insider podcast, Cincy Jungle. The Bengals are interesting this offseason. They're interesting every offseason. Ever since the Bengals started winning games and we started paying attention to them and we have this kind of connection with Cincinnati during the McDermott era that dates back to Andy Dalton and Bengals winning a game they weren't supposed to win, propelling the Bills into the playoffs and breaking the long drought. We'll check in with what's going on there in Cincinnati this offseason.
Yeah, if you had to say, give me a team, Danger, where the variance could be, hey, they win the Super Bowl or they're 6-11. I present to you the Cincinnati Bengals.
Sure.
Because if Joe Burrow is fine, if all these players are like, all right, you know what, we're going to worry about the contract later, and that may be the bigger leap, then sure, they've beaten the Chiefs. Bills can't seem to get by the Bengals when it matters most. The Bengals could be there. But you could very easily see it going the other direction, especially when your stars aren't getting paid when others in this league are. And it's an interesting way to talk about this, too, because, hey, there's Justin Jefferson getting his money. Not to mention T. Higgins, who's going to get tagged, was tagged. He's going to have to play on that thing. What do you do with Jamar Chase?
Yeah.
What do you do with Hendrickson? Like, they haven't paid him either.
Yeah. Got a couple of guys looking for some new deals. And I've always contended that organization is a dysfunctional one. And if you get a quarterback, it can mask a lot of that dysfunction. And they got a quarterback. And you hope that Burrow, for the sake, if you're a football fan, you hope that Burrow is healthy. You hope that Burrow's wrist is no worse for the wear going into this season. I mean, I think what they did last year was still pretty remarkable to finish the season with a winning record, and you had Jake Browning playing the games. I mean, like, not bad. I mean, there are pieces of Cincinnati that I really like, and I want Anthony to tell us, like, organizationally, is this the way they've always been? Are they going to continue to be the cheap Bengals like we've always known them to be, or have they changed? Will they change? Will they do the right thing, and will they give Chase a deal sooner rather than later? I
asked him a question like that. I don't think I said cheap, but he was very clear that this is not okay. That was when they were coming off the Super Bowl, but have they reverted? I guess that might be because we can establish
they paid their quarterback.
They pay their quarterback,
and when you pay your quarterback, you have to make sacrifices, as the Bills are learning this year, in other places, and you have to eat some money from time to time. So We'll talk to Anthony coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, right around 4:25. We'll get the latest out of Cincinnati. Anthony Cosenza from the Cincy Jungle and the Orange and Black Insider podcast. And we'll also have a conversation later this hour and get some winners from the host of Send It In on the BetQL network. We're talking about PJ Glasser. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. You can check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
We haven't talked to PJ in 3 weeks. You know, he's been filling in on other shows on the BetQL network, so glad that we get him back on here as we have Game 1 tomorrow night. And, hey, maybe you haven't paid attention to the NBA this season. That's okay. We have a lot of things, right? You only have so much bandwidth for sports. But now that kind of football, all right, not much going on here, and hockey's winding down, you are allowed to kind of get into the NBA Final. And this NBA Final has some sizzle to it, Danger. It really does. You have Porzingis, who was let go by Dallas. You have Kyrie, who was let go by Boston. And, boy, Kyrie seems like a new man. You have Luka, the forgotten superstar that may be able to step up. You have the Boston Celtics, who could surpass the Lakers for having the most championships of all time. So, a lot of storylines, and I expect some great basketball. And, hey, if you're somebody who wants a little bit above and beyond when it comes to action and player props and everything, PJ's the guy that dives in, so we're going to take that angle for a look at it here. Coming up, PJ Glasser at the bottom of this hour.
We'll see if we can get some winners on the diamond tonight with PJ as well. He's stopping by here in about 10-15 minutes or so. 866-4326 is our number if you want to pull up a stool. 585-866-4FAN. Gene, it's not often we... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, breaking news, though.
Do we have breaking news in the sports bar? Okay, some breaking news to get to here in the sports bar.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
As you were saying.
It's not often in the sports bar that we get to source the Grand Forks Herald.
When it comes to Rochester sports news in particular, yeah. This might be a first.
The reporter's name is Brad Elliott Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald. He's the hockey reporter for the Grand Forks Herald.
Is that the Schlossman family? Yes, it must be of Grand Forks.
Of the Grand Forks Schlossmans, yes. AHL Rochester Americans close to hiring Mike Leone from the Green Bay Gamblers, according to multiple people. Leone previously worked with the USA National Team Development Program, and Buffalo's organization has hired coaching alums from the program, including Ron Rolston, Seth Appert, and Don Granato.
And there you have it.
Close. You don't have the official word.
Right. And we haven't had anything officially from the Sabres/Amerks yet. And as soon as if we get that, we will pass that along. But, all right, I'll get the snarkiness out of the way. For everybody who wanted Michael Pekka, no, you're not going to get the assistant for the New York Rangers. You get the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers.
Well, first, a couple of things on this potential move. Of course, they're going to hire Mike Leone. Because he's Italian, Gino. You think he's going to come in here? He's going to fit in just fine. I seriously think that a big part of why this candidate is attractive, not just his time with the development program, but also his age. I think he's a younger guy, and I think he's a guy that will probably have little problem relating to not just the veteran guys on the team, but the younger guys on the team. I think he's, in that regard, probably a good fit for what the Amherst need in terms of their ability to develop. I get it. I know we locally are selfish and we want this team to win Calder Cups. And I think winning those Calder Cups is a byproduct of a coach who is exceptional at developing the talent and working with the talent that you have on that roster any given night. Seth Appert came very, very close. And I think we appreciate the work that he did while he was here. And who knows, maybe a younger voice is that force that pushes them beyond where they've been during the Seth Appert era. I'm going to reserve judgment, but on the surface, I don't hate the move. On the surface, I don't hate the move.
No, I think we have to reserve judgment on this. Like, at the very least, you can say, I wanted so-and-so. Leone, you could say he's a young guy, 36. And he never played at the American Hockey League level, never coached at this level. Mm-hmm. However, Seth Appert was coming out of college, so that was a different level for him too. Here's what I like about the development program, and this is what we were saying yesterday, and we've got this from Seth Appert, is that, hey, you want guys that can be grit guys and glue guys, and how do you actually identify that in the NHL draft? You can't. It's very difficult. Well, part of this is the U.S. National Development Team. When you end up on this team, it's a collection of all-stars. Well, guess what? When you make it to the National Hockey League, you don't need all-stars. You need guys that do different things. So how do you identify that? How do you bring out this in players? Because these kids, because that's, after all, that's what they are, they've never been asked to do some things. And it was, just 2 years ago that the Amherst had 4 teenagers on the team. I mean, they are children, really. So you have to kind of teach them different things about the game. Even though they're, finger quote, professionals here in Rochester, there's still a lot to learn. So from that standpoint, if you're trying to look long-term with the Buffalo Sabres, I'm on board with this. On the other hand, you can have two things that are true. It's a little disappointing because every year we kind of suspend our knowledge here. We know what the Amherst purpose is, okay? We're not dumb. But when it's time for the playoffs, it's time for the Calder Cup, it's about winning. And that's all I want. And they've been able, Danger, to have this balance in the last few years. So if it ends up being Michael Leone, can he actually continue to have this balance where, we're teaching, we're developing, but you know what? Winning's also part of that.
I'd also like to know if there's any relationship or any prior relationship with Vinny Prospel, with Paisher, if they know of each other, if they've met each other through circles, or if Seth Appert is a part of this saying, you know what, I know Prospel, I know Paisher, and this guy is going to be a fit. The three of them together are going to work well together, because I do think it is a collaborative effort when you're talking about the guys behind the bench in Rochester. So that is not official yet. That's coming. That's a scoop coming from my hometown, the Grand Forks Herald. And when I saw that, I'm like, this warms my heart that the hockey reporter in Grand Forks, listen, his job is primarily follow the University of North Dakota hockey team. That's your job. You're reporting on that constantly in a small town. When that's all you have, that reporter has a very significant role. And so he knows his hockey, and he's got his insight. And listen, Green Bay is closer to Grand Forks than it is to Rochester. So we'll take this scoop and kind of run with it here and wait for an official announcement as to who the next coach of the Rochester Americans could be.
Yeah. We don't want to wish your summer away here. I always say that. People that say, "Oh, is it October yet?" No, I kind of like June, July, and August. and September too. But you can also look forward here. More sports conspiracy theories coming in on X if you have one.
Oh.
And we accidentally fell into this topic here talking about
What are you talking about? This was planned all along. I knew exactly where we were going when I talked about wounding my foot during my dad run today. I knew this was where it was going to go.
So I brought up that was my favorite sports conspiracy theory all time. I believe it to be true that was fake. Schilling's bloody sock. The NBA draft, that is one with the Knicks winning it. Wilt's 100 points. Danger brings up Chris writing in. Super Bowl 25, where the helicopter flying over the stadium absolutely changed the course of Scott Norwood's kick. Okay, if you're a Bills fan who believes that, you go ahead and believe that. Because
I will say that the blackout in the Superdome for the Niners and Ravens could be viewed as a conspiracy. That was different.
That changed the course of that game. That nearly put the Niners back into the game.
Nobody really talks about that too much. I mean, that's the Super Bowl. That's the biggest sporting event on the planet. Maybe save the World Cup. But you've got all eyes on your product, and the stadium has a blackout?
You know what we have to ask? We get Tasker on at camp because he was the sideline reporter. And because the majority of cameras were out, and when there was a blackout, where did we all might think, oh my gosh, what is going on there? The world we live in. And there's Steve Tasker, who all of a sudden has to be this calming influence and stall for 4 minutes or whatever it was. We'll get his thoughts on that.
We have to remember that.
Got a good one here for James writing in. What's more plausible? Danger's Wilt's 100 or the claim of 10,000 by Wilt?
Ooh. I'd actually say 10,000 by and that's part of it too. That's actually a really good point. That's part of why it's hard to believe that guy scored 100. He's also the same guy walking around saying, I nailed 10,000 women during the course of my playing career. I don't know about that, dude. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm buying anything that guy is selling.
Okay, so he passed at 63. Let's say he started this when he was 19. Or 18, I'll even give that.
When did Wilt pass?
Yeah, 1999.
Wow. That's a long time ago.
Okay, so this is 45 years. Let's say that is one encounter a day. Okay, that would put you at 16,000. So what?
We're doing the math here, trying to figure out if it's even plausible.
It's plausible. Okay, so you would have to have for basically 30 years one different encounter a day.
A different woman every day for 30 years? That's what he's
claiming.
That's what he's claiming?
Maybe some days you played a doubleheader.
Maybe. I would think probably a lot of days you'd have to play a doubleheader. The stamina of Wilt. I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. No way. No how. Thanks for pointing that out. That's another reason to not believe that guy went off for 100 in a game in Hershey.
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think it's just a lie.
Yeah.
That's a difference.
I want to talk a little bit later this afternoon about the college football playoff because they announced the schedule for it. And, man, they did it right. I look at it, I'm like, I'm excited for this. I can't wait for this.
Yeah,
right. the entire week. We'll get to that here through the course of the afternoon. We appreciate you checking us out at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We've got the free-to-download Odyssey app where you can hear us sounding our best. We're looking our best right now in the video stream. You can watch us on YouTube and on Twitch. Like and subscribe at either platform, our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. You can also hear us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We get some winners from the host of BetQL's Send It In. PJ Glasser stopping by the sports bar next.
You're listening to the Sports Fan Rochester Sports Update.
We got some Amerks coaching news. According to Brad Elliott Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald, the Amerks are close to hiring Mike Leone as their new head coach. Leone, previously the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in junior hockey. He's also worked for the U.S. developmental team. Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up tomorrow night. It's Dallas and Boston. Mavs head coach Jason Kidd on being back in the finals.
But it's gratifying and it does feel good to be able to be here. You put in a lot of time. It's fun. It's chess. I love playing chess and understanding it to put the guys in a position to be successful.
How do you play it? PJ Glasser, host of Send It In on the BetQL Network, joining us next on the Major League Scoreboard. Red Sox leading the Braves 8-0 in the 7th. Cardinals up on the Astros 4-2 in the 6th. Gene Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I need that soundbite again.
But it's gratifying and it does feel good to be able to be here. You put in a lot of time. It's fun. It's chess. I love playing chess and understanding it to put the guys in a position to be successful.
That's Mavericks head coach Lenny Kravitz here in the sports bar. We welcome in the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. PJ, it's been a while since we've had you on. Thanks for making time for us. We were just kind of putzing around here earlier this hour talking about our favorite sports conspiracy theories, things that people claim happened but don't really believe that they happened. Gene is not a believer in the Kurt Schilling bloody sock.
No, that was Kurt for drama. Others say the 1985 NBA draft, if you watch that video, is David Stern kind of reaching for the frozen card. Some people believe that to have happened. Danger thinks it's Will Chamberlain, 100 points.
I don't think Will Chamberlain scored 100 points in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Get out of here. Just because you're holding a sign that says 100 from the same guy who says he slept with how many women while he was alive?
10,000.
Yeah, get out of here. I'm not buying it. You got one, PJ?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking off the top of my head here, I would say like Babe Ruth, like calling his shot, right? Like that story of like pointing to where he was going to hit a homer and then like actually doing it. I mean, maybe he did, but whenever I heard that story growing up, I'm like he really do that? I guess he was pretty good back in his day, but that I came up with, even just thinking of like sticking with the NBA draft, like I don't know if those ping pong balls, like I think that whole thing is kind of interesting as well. And some of the teams that get to pick number one, in certain years with some of the prospects that come out. So thinking off the top of my head, those were a couple that I came up with.
PJ Glasser, host of Send It In. Here we have Boston and Dallas. And before we get to some of the props here, player props, and who you think will win this series and how we can make some money, PJ, just your thoughts on how both these teams got here, particularly Dallas, because you go back to January and they were kind of farting around just a little bit above 500. I mean, if we could go back in time, was anybody saying that, hey, keep an eye on this team if they ever pull it together here? Anything we can learn from what Dallas kind of did down the stretch as a 5 seed, making it all the way to the finals?
Gene, it's all about the trade deadline for Dallas. I mean, that's why they're in the NBA Finals. First half of the season, they were a good offensive team, but defensively they really struggled. And then they made those 2 trades to acquire Daniel Gafford from the Wizards and to get P.J. Washington from the Hornets. And you look at their metrics towards the end of the season when they got those 2 guys, and they actually turned into one of the better teams in the NBA. Doing shows on the BetQL network, we had a couple people on to preview the NBA Finals. And, the question that we were asking them is, if it's not Denver in the West, who would be the team? And, I mean, there were a couple different people, guys, that came out and said the Dallas Mavericks. You look at all the metrics and how they've been playing since acquiring Gafford and Washington, they've been great. And obviously just watching the playoffs play out, it's funny, guys, we're in the air, obviously, the NBA and super teams and all these trades and players wanting to go to new places. But, you look at the way that Dallas has done it and how they've acquired 2 stars that are so good in crunch time, and that's the way it's played out. You got Luke and Kyrie, arguably two of the best closers in the NBA, and they've done a great job to kind of mix in some other players. They've improved defensively, and that's how Dallas is here. And then Boston, they were the best team in the NBA all season. Like, they were historically good, guys. According to the metrics, they were like an all-time regular season team. Would have nice to have seen if they would have been a little bit more challenged in the East, if the Knicks didn't have injuries or if Indiana was able to close out some of those games down the stretch. Maybe even Jimmy Butler plays for the Heat. So no surprise, really, Boston's in it, but Dallas, certainly, they are not here if they don't make those trades at the deadline.
So we talk about Boston being one of the best teams or the best team in the NBA all season long, yet I struggle with trusting them. Like, I really don't trust Boston, and I'm crazy, and maybe Boston does to Dallas what they did to Indiana, and it's a short series, but it just feels like there is an inconsistency to them that they're able to overcome and still win games. PJ, am I reading it wrong? How do you go into this series looking at Boston and say, oh yeah, Boston can win this series?
Not at all, Danger. I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, right? Like, you look across champions in any sport, any teams that win a title, right? Whether it's Saban's Bama teams or Kirby's Georgia teams, or whether it's been UConn the last couple of years, whether it's Mahomes and the Chiefs, like, these teams that win titles, you look at those teams and you say, yeah, I'm not betting against those teams, right? Like, I'm not fading them. And you look at this Boston team and it's like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to fade this team, knowing that they're favorites in every game that they play. My thing with Boston is the perception around them compared to just other teams, I think, is really what clouds people's judgment of them. And maybe even though they're not necessarily as good as maybe some of those Warriors teams were when they were winning as many games as Boston was in the regular season, I think the thing that we have to ask ourselves is, even though they're not as good as those teams, are they still good enough to beat the teams that they're currently playing against? And also, it's all about matchups. Dallas just went up against a series in Minnesota where it was really predicated around the big men. We know the Wolves have the defensive player of the year in Gobert. They have Karl Anthony Towns, who's a stretch four, can do a lot of things. Now they're playing a series that's really dictated by the guards, because Boston can roll out Tatum and Brown and Derek White and Drew Holiday and do all these different things. So I think Boston, the matchups, like Indiana obviously could run with them. They're a great offensive team, and they have plenty of guards that Rick Carlisle could rotate in there. Dallas, they've gotten some good minutes from their guys off the bench, but all the different guys that they can throw at Luka and Kyrie and try to contain them the best they can, I think is going to be tough for Dallas. So I'm with you, Danger. I don't trust them either, but I just think the perception, it's like we all expect Boston to win every game by 30, and at the end of the day, they're winning games, and it's just not good enough for people. And because of that, I think it's created some value on them in the market.
Yeah, PJ, what you're Danger's mentioning there about Boston, and I kind of look at their path, and I look at Dallas's path. The fact I will be the first to admit, and look, I'm not the expert. You are. I was taking the Clippers. I was taking the Thunder. I thought the Thunder, they may be a little ahead of schedule there, but not quite yet. Oh my gosh, Dallas is playing the team with the best defense in the league, and they just took out the defending champs, Minnesota. No, that didn't happen either. Is there something to be said for the path that these teams took to the final, and that Boston, all right, well, yeah, they get by the Pacers and Cleveland before that?
You look at Dallas's path, Gene, and I think all the teams that they played had question marks, and I think Boston's biggest question mark right now was what Danger was just talking about, is do you trust them? Do you trust this core team to finally get over the hump and win an NBA Finals? Because a lot of people feel like Boston's postseason is starting tomorrow night. Like, a lot of people just think that Eastern Conference was such a cakewalk, they really didn't get challenged, that really we're going to see how good they are in this series. But you look at Dallas's path, guys, against the Clippers. Kawhi was banged up, and that's been the story the last 5 years with LA. You don't really know how good they would have been, but when you're missing your best player, you're not going to be as good. OKC reminded me a lot of the Orioles this year in the NBA. You could kind of see them up and coming. They were bad for 5-6 years, got all those picks, and now they're starting to come. O's got the 1 seed last year, got an early exit. OKC, similar thing, especially when Zion got hurt in New Orleans. They were going to win that series. And then playing against Minnesota, up until that point, guys, all of Minnesota's wins in the playoffs had really been blowouts, or they had been comfortable 7, 8, 10-point victories. And then in those games against Dallas where they really had to execute down the stretch, that's where I think we underestimated Dallas and we kind of overestimated Minnesota and their ability to win those games against Luka and Kyrie. Well, now you go up against Boston, and they just played a number of games in that series against Indiana where they had to execute down the stretch. So you can check that. Just mention how good they are with their guards. All the guys that they can kind of rotate on Kyrie and Luka might be getting Porzingis back, which could help them. So I just think there's kind of been question marks with Dallas and kind of teams that they've played along the way. And certainly Boston has theirs, but it just feels like now they're going up against a team that, at least from a basketball standpoint, kind of checks all the boxes. So that's why I like Boston in this series. I think they're going to win. I probably would take the Celtics in 6 games.
All right, PJ. So I need somebody to tail for the NBA final. I've got my Google sheet open. I'm ready to take down some notes. Let's make some money on this series. You say you like Boston in 6. So where can we find value here for game 1, and where can we find value for this series?
So I like Boston in 6. I actually like Dallas, though, in game 1. I think they're going to win game 1 because this is what the Celtics do. They start every series, they have home court advantage, and they usually lose one of the 2 games at home. It's what they always do. I think game 1's a great opportunity for Dallas to go on the road and win that game. So I'd take a stab with the Mavs. Some props that I like, I'd look at Kyrie Irving over 23.5 points in game 1, and I'd look at, there's a BetMGM special, guys. Kyrie to score 20 or more points in every game of the series is plus 300. I just think Kyrie Irving with a chip on his shoulder is just a dangerous man. Kind of reminds me of Aaron Rodgers a little bit. A lot of people don't really agree with a lot of his views, but you can't deny how good of a player he is. And when he has a chip on his shoulder and when people are telling him or they're challenging him, that's when he usually is at his best. And certainly going up against his old team in a city that he doesn't like very much, I think Kyrie's going to have a huge game 1, and he's going to have a huge series, so I like those bets. I also keep an eye on P.J. Washington rebounds this series. It's sitting at 5.5 in game 1. I would keep betting that until maybe it goes up to 7.5 or maybe even above that, because I think because of Boston's guards, I think it might be a tough series for Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. I think there could go a little bit more of Maxi Kleba, and we could see some smaller lineups for Dallas. So I think they're going to need P.J. Washington to rebound a little bit more in this series. So those were 2 that stuck out to me. Washington rebounds, Kyrie points are 2 things that I'm definitely betting this series.
Yeah, just straight up, PJ. How many games? Who do you like in the series here?
Yeah, I like Boston in 6. I think they're going to win it. I think it could go 7, guys. It really could. I think it's going to be a long series. But I like the Celtics. It feels like this NBA playoffs. It feels like every team, the kind of the general consensus, the people have liked, right? Each round, we've kind of fallen in love with that one team that we ride to the next round, and it feels like that team always loses. It was the Knicks going into the semifinal round against the Pacers. It was the Wolves going into their matchup against Dallas, and all these teams have been losing. It feels like with how good Dallas was in that series and how many people liked Minnesota and what they did to the Wolves, and just because people just don't like Boston. They feel like it's been so easy for them up to this point. And for a team that we all hear is so good, it's just they don't have that feel to them like they really should. So I think a lot of people are betting on Dallas because they want to root against Boston. And to me, when I kind of sense that stuff and I see the market reflect it, I think it creates a good betting opportunity. So like the Celtics in the series, fellas, and I'll say that they get it done in 6 games.
PJ, I want to get your take on today's baseball action and get some winners from the diamond in today's action. But, you're a sports guy like we are. We live for this stuff, and we see things that get us excited. And today, it was the college football playoff schedule. I don't know how much time you spent talking about this, if any, on your show. In fact, it might have even released while you were doing Send It In or right as Send It In was wrapping up. But do you have any thoughts on the upcoming college football season, and specifically with this playoff, when I know that there are prop bets out there for you to take teams that you think will make this playoff here in 24-25?
Well, guys, personally, me speaking, one of the college football playoff dates I saw was Saturday, December 21st.
Yes.
You guys know me. I'm a big Ravens fan, and they play the Steelers on that day at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I saw one of the playoff games was slated at 4 p.m.
Yep.
Guys, what if Bama plays that? Like, what am I going to do? I mean, never in my life have I had, two important, big-time games like that on at the same time. I don't know what I do having to choose. So that was my first initial thoughts, just as a fan, if those two games kind of overlap. But I think it's going to be awesome. I think, with football, obviously, I know a lot of people feel like maybe we're getting to the point where there are too many games. I'm never going to argue for, more football games, especially playoff games. And I think getting to see those games, on campus, we're not talking about enough, right? LSU could be traveling to Ohio State and playing them in December, which just would be awesome to see on campus. So I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to add to the playoff because I think still the best teams are going to rise to the top and we'll probably get the best winner, but we're also going to get some upsets mixed in there as well. Kind of like that year TCU beat Michigan, you had your upset, and then Georgia absolutely demolished them. Washington last year against Texas, you had an upset, Michigan wins. So I think we'll see more of that. We'll have some upsets, kind of like the NCAA tournament, and then usually, the best teams will get to the end. So I'm really excited for it, and the schedule just, added to all that excitement.
PJ Glasser, your host of Send It In. We've got some action on the diamond right now, but we do have action coming up tonight. You've got the Jays against the O's up north of the border. You have the Yankees against the team they absolutely own year after year after year. Rodon going up against the Twins. Anything you like in terms of a play tonight, PJ, in Major League Baseball?
For sure. We'll go to that O's-Blue Jays game. Gene, Adley Rutschman is facing Jose Barrios today. Rutschman is 12 for 19 against Barrios in his career. They actually faced each other about 3 weeks ago at Camden Yards, and Adley had 2 home runs against Barrios. So 1.5 total bases tonight. Adley to go over that is plus 120. As soon as I saw Barrios was starting today, Adley was my first bet of the day. So absolutely love that. Also, Yankees on the run line, Carlos Rodon is pitching for the Yankees today. He's been really good at home this season. 2.13 ERA at home. He's won his last 5 starts. He's only lost 1 start the entire year at home. So I keep riding the Yankees. They're red hot. I'd take them minus 1.5. And then Logan Gilbert, the pitcher for the Mariners tonight, guys, under 6.5 strikeouts for Gilbert. They're facing the A's tonight. And Gilbert against the A's in his career last 6 starts has not had 7 or more strikeouts. Also in his last 6 starts, he hasn't had 7 or more strikeouts. So we got the trends with recency, and also the team that he's facing normally doesn't get those strikeout numbers. So Adley over total bases, Yankees run line, Logan Gilbert under strikeouts, all things I like today.
All right, so for people that aren't familiar with your work, PJ, tell us about Send It In on the BetQL network, where we can hear and see more of your work.
Yeah, guys, 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday through Friday. You can watch us on the BetQL network. We're streaming live, twitch.tv/BetQL. We're on YouTube. You can search up Odyssey Sports on YouTube. We got a live stream there as well. And it's a lot of this. We go across all the different sports, give out all of our daily picks and best bets, and it's interactive too. So people that chime in, watch the show, they can send in their picks, best bets, any questions that they have, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and when we talk to you next week, PJ, not only will we have the NBA Finals to talk about, we will have another golf major, the U.S. Open, so can't wait to get some of your plays next week for the U.S. Open.
Looking forward to it, fellas. Might have Bryson DeChambeau on the card. We'll see.
There he is, PJ Glasser. Have a great night, bud. Appreciate the time.
Good catching up with you boys.
You got it. Love PJ. Bryson DeChambeau. This is an all-timer. We got to work on a bracket for 2025. We got to get start on it now.
Start it now.
The schedule for the college football playoff.
Tell me. You mentioned this. I missed this. What's it all about?
Oh, man. I mean, fantastic. You got the first round of the playoff the weekend of December 20th. You've got a night game on ESPN Friday, December 20th. You've got a triple header that Saturday, the 21st. PJ mentioned that one of the games is going to go up against an NFL game. Your triple header starts on TNT at noon on Saturday. You've got a 4 p.m. kickoff on the 21st on TNT, and then the nightcap Saturday, December 21st, 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN. That's the first round. Then you wait until New Year's. Then you get your 4 quarterfinal games on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You've got one game on New Year's Eve, 7:30, the Fiesta Bowl will be the first quarterfinal. And then your triple header on New Year's Day. The Peach Bowl at 1 on ESPN. The Rose Bowl, traditional, 5 o'clock, ESPN. We'll cap it with the Sugar Bowl at 8:45.
Oh, my gosh. They hit all the right notes.
On New Year's Day. And then your semifinal, going into the following weekend, Thursday, January 9th, and Friday, January 10th. Thursday, January 9th on ESPN will be the Orange Bowl. The Cotton Bowl will be the following night, your playoff semifinal, and then, of course, the national championship 10 days later, Monday, January 20th in Atlanta, your college football national championship with the expanded playoff format, your inaugural season. The only thing I don't like about this, I just want to stop having the national championship on a Monday. Can we stop with the game on a Monday?
You know why they're doing this? Because we are conditioned, and it's also ABC, right? Is that where it's going to end up on the national?
ESPN.
Yeah. So Disney has it. We're conditioned for Monday Night Football. You're going to have, because we will have, usually it's Florida State, usually it's an ACC game, that Monday night of Labor Day weekend. Now you're going to go all the way. You're going to blow right past Martin Luther King Day all the way to the national championship game.
Is that Martin Luther King Day, the 20th?
I think so. Yes.
Oh, see, I mean, I know that there's...
You have to do that.
Yeah.
Because you really going to take the NFL hat on? You can't do it. You don't want to put it on a Friday night. You'd rather have it on a Monday night.
I get it.
If anything, Danger started earlier. I think that's the issue. Is that
7:30,
7:30, even 7 o'clock? Because college football goes 4 hours. It just does. And last year, just trying to stay up with the Washington game of the second.
Now, the time they're saying here is 7:30. I don't know if that means 7:30 is the start on ESPN and kickoff is like an hour later, an 8:30 kickoff on a Monday night. I mean, we do it for the NFL. It shouldn't be a big deal. But these college games are just longer. They just drag out a lot longer.
Well, remember, they're going to have the clock. That is going to be different now. So maybe it'll speed up just a little bit to make it look more like the pro game. But to your point, people that say there's an East Coast bias, oh, okay. Well, tell me why we're up past 11 o'clock on a work night then.
Yeah, I do love the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day quarterfinals and getting all the traditional bowl games in there. Have we gotten past the whole... We need a Pac-12 Big Ten school in the Rose Bowl. I mean,
that's over.
It's done. I know, but I feel like that was something that took a little adjusting, but it's fine. We're good with it, right?
Well, okay. So if you get SEC team against an ACC team in the Rose Bowl,
it'll feel different.
It'll feel different, no doubt. But to me, of all the bowl games, that's always the favorite one, right? Because it's New Year's Day. Maybe you took a little nap and you're watching this and the sunset and everything else. And the vibes for the Rose Bowl are spectacular.
Always. So there's your college football playoff schedule for the expanded playoff, the inaugural season with the expanded playoff.
Just side note, keep the Rose Bowl at the Rose Bowl because I'm sure they could make more money at SoFi, but...
I'm worried about the state of the Rose Bowl. I mean, that's not a new building. Is that building still in good shape? Is it in tip-top? Is it up to code? That's what makes me nervous. I would hate to have a tragedy on New Year's Day at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and come back. We have more on the way here in the Sports Bar. We welcome your calls at 866-4326. Appreciate PJ stopping by. We'll be joined later this 4 o'clock hour with Anthony Cosenza, the Cincy Jungle, the Orange and Black Insider Podcast. We'll go to Cincinnati and discuss what their offseason has been like here, what the deal is with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and other players looking to get paid. The Bengals, always an interesting team when you're a Bills fan, wondering if you can get by a team like Cincinnati, inevitably to get to where you want to be. Anthony Cosenza stopping by, and your call's on the way next. Plus, some takes on tap in the sports bar.
Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy has a fantasy take. It is a doozy. Like, which player that wouldn't even be on your radar is worthy of a first-round pick? And this is interesting. And I think when Andy lays this out, it's the time to take in fantasy football takes. Yes, it's that time of year, so we're going to break the seal. Also, which head coach in the NFL was I one to make fun of? But now I'm starting to flip-flop a little bit. I think this guy, I'm going to be pulling for this guy this year.
I saw a video cross my feed here the last couple of days, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I'd like to see this become more common in our sports fandom. I'll explain what the video was and how we can begin to apply this immediately in our fandom.
You're going to talk about the fan up in Edmonton. Is that what you're going to talk about?
The fan up in Edmonton. What fan in Edmonton?
You haven't seen this?
Which video are you talking about?
Oh.
All right, we'll get to the bottom of this. That's on the way next. Appreciate you sticking by. The Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia with more next on The Fan.
7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
We have Amerks coaching news. According to Brad Elliott Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald, the Amerks are close to hiring Michael Leone as their new head coach. Leone, previously the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers of junior hockey, also worked with the U.S. developmental team. Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up tomorrow night, Dallas and Boston. Jason Tatum of the Celtics is ready.
You want to be one of the greats, right, to put on this uniform. Every great before you won a championship. And that's what we try to play for every single season. The expectations are obviously different here.
Final today from the major leagues. Boston over Atlanta 9-0. Rain delay in Washington between the Mets and the Nationals. Middle of the ninth now. Cardinals leading the Astros 4-2. Last chance for Houston. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win a Super Bowl.
So you can ask the Buffalo Bills how important Super Bowl experience is.
Mike Danger.
Putting my foot down, I have an unpopular opinion. I'm sure a lot of people will find it to be an unpopular opinion. I don't care.
Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, you're all fired up for June football, everybody. Yeah, that's some really A-plus coach speak.
I miss Chubby to her, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Amerks hockey.
Michael Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
Because he's Italian!
Don Stevens. The Stanley Cup final, the NBA finals. JJ Redick, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
I am not his running mate anymore.
WNBA refs now taking heat for a quick ejection of Angel Reese last night. Reese got back-to-back techs in the fourth quarter.
Really? If you build it, they will come, right? So we are going to test our mental fortitude this week, boys.
We need some tears. Oh, we need some prayers. Can we get some prayers? Oh, we see some prayers. Give me some tears. Can we get some tears? We get some tears? Okay, we don't have any tears. I mean, look who you're catering to here. This is
The Sports Bar, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Grand Forks Herald breaking news with their scoop. I mean, let's face it, we had Lance on yesterday, essentially saying the same thing. Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News yesterday on with us here in the Sports Bar.
Michael Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League, who was also at the development program. His time there coincided briefly with Seth Appert's. His coached in the international tournaments as an assistant. Not a whole lot of head coaching experience, only 36 years old, but obviously somebody who is being considered here because they feel he can pick up the baton from Seth Appert and continue to the culture, everything that they've done in Rochester since 2020 in terms of operating it very similar to what the development program in Plymouth, Michigan has been.
Lance making a lot of great reasons why this guy could be the next head coach of the Rochester Americans, but he forgot the most important.
Ready?
Because he's Italian! I don't even know if he's Italian, but his last name sounds Italian.
It's Leone, correct?
I want to say it's Leone, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll figure that out. But Leone, not a lot of experience in terms of being a head coach, but I'm wondering how much influence Seth Appert had in this whole process.
Well, if their paths crossed in the development circles, then he might think highly of him, and that might be all you need. As we know, a lot of times with these job openings, it's not what you know, but who you know. And there might be more qualified or more experienced coaches, certainly, but the guy might be the right guy at the right time. We'll see.
I thought J.D. Forrest, who was with the Penguins and was also a developmental coach. Now, he was a little before Seth. Maybe that would have been somebody. And, again, this isn't final. This is just the one report. I just think it's hilarious that we are citing the Grand Forks Herald.
Sourcing my hometown newspaper, where I grew up, where the fish wrap that was on my front porch every day. If you want a good laugh, this is my favorite Grand Forks Herald story. And this went viral before viral was viral, right? Like in the early infancy of the internet, this got Grand Forks and the Grand Forks Herald on the map. There was an article written by the Grand Forks Herald food critic, lovely older lady by the name of Marilyn Haggerty. Do you want to take a stab at the restaurant that Marilyn Haggerty gave a food review of when it first arrived in the mighty metropolis of Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Okay, this has got to be some sort of fast food restaurant. What did they get? I'm going to go with Golden Corral.
Close. Olive Garden. Marilyn Haggerty, her review of the Olive Garden in the Grand Forks Herald went viral before viral was viral, and everybody was sharing the story because it was hilarious. She's such a sweet old lady, and she's doing food reviews for this small town newspaper. It's a small town that really has the university, and that's it, right? Like the University of North Dakota hockey program is everything. It's if you're a kid, you look up to those players as if they were professional athletes. And so when we hear of the breaking news from the Grand Forks Herald, like the beat reporter, the hockey reporter for the Grand Forks Herald, I'm sure he knows his stuff.
You got to kind of go beyond your borders, is what you're saying. You're so connected that you want to. And I think it's funny how he tweeted it out. Head coach AAHL Rochester Americans. I'm like, oh, okay. Like most people would just say the Amerks here. So he's probably not familiar with the Amerks, just like we're not familiar, unless your name is Mike Danger, with Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Oh, very familiar.
Yeah.
Very familiar. I was excited to see that we're sourcing the Grand Forks Herald for a scoop here on who the next coach of the Amerks could be. Big hockey community. Anthony Cosenza of the Cincy Jungle and the Orange and Black Insider Podcast going to stop by here in about 15 minutes or so. Gives us some time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Also gives us some time to stretch out and dish out some takes.
Yeah. Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy.
One of our favorites.
He's got this fantasy football take, Danger, and you're going to love this. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a first-rounder this year in fantasy football, and not only that, he's got the potential to finish as wide receiver 1.
Oh, wow.
Okay, like I don't think anybody be saying, hey, he's going to be better than Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and everybody else, but Andy is laying this out amongst his reasons, including the stat lines at Ohio State, where he tore apart Georgia, 5 catches, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. Michigan last year, $5.18 and a touchdown. He's a beast. Andy, quote, it won't be much of a surprise if he delivers a 90-catch, 1,300-yard, 10-touchdown season, assuming good health. Danger, I love this for another reason, too. All the hype surrounding Marvin Harrison Jr. is only going to get louder, and it's going to force their opening opponent, the Buffalo Bills, to actually sit up straight here, knowing that Arizona's offense is capable, is worthy coming in. That's an opener that the Buffalo Bills cannot afford to lose, and that is a team that could potentially trip up Buffalo. I certainly think the possibility is there.
All right, so a couple of thoughts, one on the Bills and then one on the on Marvin Harrison Jr. and his fantasy take here. I love that take. And I think when you watch preseason football, most of the time we say, this is not fun. It's not good to watch. It's not fun to watch. No. If you have the chance to watch the Cardinals this preseason, watch Marvin Harrison. Watch what happens. Every now and then, you'll see a play, a glimpse, something that alerts you because it looks so spectacular. And we can look to Josh Allen's rookie year for a play. Remember Josh Allen's touchdown pass in the preseason against the Browns? You saw it and you're like, whoa, we haven't seen a quarterback in Buffalo throw a football that hard in a long time. This could be special.
I think of Mahomes to Tyreek Hill in a game.
That was the other example I was going to give you. Yep, exactly right. Another example I was going to give you. And you saw that connection, and you're like, oh boy, these two could make sweet music. If this is a precursor, and because let's face it, they were both fairly still young in their careers where they're playing in a preseason game. It's not like they're resting their starters. Like, he's a rookie. He's going to get time this preseason. Watch how he performs or doesn't perform in the preseason. I think that will be encouraging. That could lead you to believe what Andy is saying here, that he could have an unbelievable rookie season, potentially finishing as wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. My point on the Bills, and I really, really, really want to be optimistic, man. I really, really do. I'm not going to be as high. I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be as high on the Bills as everybody else is going to be. I just am not going to be as high. And I know everybody's going to say the same thing because I've heard it from everybody that we've talked to about the Bills. When I bring up the cap situation, the fact that they have the second highest dead cap, the fact that you've got new coordinators on both sides of the ball, The fact that you've drafted two guys that, have never played football, the overhaul of this roster. If it was any other team, we wouldn't be talking about them as a favorite to win the division, but you have Josh Allen. I want to believe that, but I want to see what it looks like without Diggs. And you could say, well, we did see what it looks like without Diggs. Look at the last half of the season last year with Joe Brady's the offensive coordinator. I want to believe that that's going to be enough, that that's going to be good enough. But the NFL catches up to you quickly, and you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to adjust. And Joe Brady was not a success his first go-around as an offensive coordinator. He didn't have Josh Allen as his quarterback, so things could change. I'm just saying, if they lost week 1 to Arizona, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they lost week 1 to Arizona.
No, that is a worthy opponent, and teams kind of come out sluggish, and we haven't seen this.
I'll go even further to say, if the Bills finish the season with less than 10 wins, that will not surprise me either. If they're an 8-win or 9-win team, that will not surprise me, given everything that has changed with this roster and with this organization.
I've got a theory about golf, and I think this applies to the Buffalo Bills. Golf, I think all of us are really not good at it. But you remember the 1 or 2 good shots.
That's what gets you coming back.
Yeah, exactly. I would liken the Buffalo Bills season last year to a high jump. And when you see a good high jump where you just barely clear it, where you're arcing your back, and then somehow you... Did we not forget that the Buffalo Bills are trailing in the second half in a Week 18 game where they would have lost the division? They would have been out of the playoffs.
That's right.
That's how close it was, and that was last year with all these guys that were still on the team.
You beat a Steelers team that didn't belong in the postseason.
Correct.
Yeah.
You were that close to missing last year.
Right.
But we forget that because we remember the good golf shot. We remember the good times of the Buffalo Bills. Hey, that was a pretty, by our standards, crappy season last year.
Well, yes. The standards that you had with Diggs and Allen, their first couple of seasons together, I don't know that you're going to see that this year. I want to believe that you're going to see that, but I'm not going to compare Khalil Shakir to Stephon Diggs. Dalton Kincaid could be the savior. He could be the guy that makes everything go. James Cook, you don't drop a couple of passes, and we're having a different conversation about him. I just won't be surprised, or as surprised as some, if this team this year loses games that you would think they should win. If they lose to Arizona, if they end the season with 8 or 9 wins and find themselves on the outside looking in, it won't surprise me. It will not surprise me. I've hated this offseason for the Buffalo Bills.
And to get little Kyler Murray running around healthy week 1, he's going to be a pain in the neck. It is going to be an uncomfortable opener for the Buffalo Bills.
Saw a video cross my feed, and I absolutely loved it. Thought it was brilliant. I'd like to see this become more common in our sports fandom. This happened north of the border. So let me try to paint this picture for you here. At the end of the Canucks-Oilers series, there's a watch party going on, and somebody's taking a video of the fans of each team. They're fans of the Oilers and the Canucks at this watch party. They engage in one of the best traditions in all of sports, the post-series handshake line. Imagine grown men, fans, going through the handshake line. They're all wearing their sweaters. Some are wearing Canucks. Some are wearing Oilers, shaking hands, sharing some good wishes. Sportsmanship, Gene, class. The boys up north just doing it right. Let me set a scene as well here. Game 5, Blue Cross Arena. Your Rochester Americans, after a furious comeback in Game 4, are rocking momentum against Syracuse. They've got hot goaltending with Devin Levi. We're coming in confident. Gino and I up there in the nosebleeds with Crunch fans blowing their vuvuzelas and having a time, knowing that tonight their team is the better squad. What do we do at the game's conclusion? We stomp out of the arena like little bitches. No, I say, Gene. No. We stay. We wait. And we line up to shake the hands of the opposing fan base just as the players are doing at ice level. Hey, great salt potatoes in Game 3. Good luck against Cleveland, guys. Subban may have your number. I don't know. Show a little sportsmanship for a series well cheered for. Big fan of this move.
Okay, couple thoughts. In fact, I got a lot of thoughts on this one. Nosebleed seats. No, 222. I would have said that going in. They're actually really good seats.
I wasn't mad at the seats.
Yeah,
but we were up there.
You're up there, but like as compared to an NHL arena, you're seeing everything.
Yeah, you're right on
thought
top
you could
of it.
see the flow and everything. I would sit there again. 2, what are you talking about? Smelly Syracuse fan with their BO and their sweaty hands. I got to go shake their hand?
Yeah.
No, I stomped out of there. I was angry. A lot of other American fans were angry, but it had nothing to do with the stupid cowbells and the vuvuzelas, those obnoxious Syracuse fans. It was the fact that, well, there it goes. There was the season, and it was not a good start for Rochester. It's going to sound like sour grapes. Sure, Syracuse was the better team. Explain to me how the first 10 minutes of the game went by where you didn't have a shot on goal. So that kind of set me in a mood.
Yeah, I get it. All right, Gene. So you're saying you're above the post-series handshake.
No.
Who are you? You're LeBron? Who else?
I'm Belichick.
Yeah, Belichick. Who else has stormed off? There's a series, a long list.
Tom Brady
doesn't like the handshake. Yeah. So that's where you are? You're above sportsmanship.
Hockey players are better than I, and I don't think this will ever translate to the stands after a game to the
Look, I know that there are fans listening to our show right now that hear what I'm describing, and they're in. They get it. They know that this is bigger than the outcome of the game. This is class. This is sportsmanship. You handle yourself with dignity. You know that your opponent just got the best of you. You would want your opponent to do that to you. Hey, great series, guys. Great series. By the way, the Jenny Kolsch that you guys are serving up here, the kind that you're serving up here, the beer selection at Blue Cross Arena, fantastic, guys. Well, if you heard that from a Syracuse fan, you'd think differently about Syracuse fan. It's a good series cheered for. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. Good luck in the next round. Or, we're going to need guys, thanks for the good luck. We're going to need it. We got Cleveland in the next round. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go back to 2011. I'm picking the playoff loss that's most painful. Mike Danger again going up to Packer fans. You know what? Oh, that Aaron Rodgers, he's so good. I can't believe we missed the postseason with 10 wins. You mean to tell me you're shaking Packer fans' hand?
My brother-in-law is a Packer fan. Have to do it. Have to do it. What am I going to do? Am I going to storm out of the house, leave my family member behind? I was by myself. It was me and Packer fans, and I've been in that situation. You gotta rise above it. Good game. Good luck. I'm pissed, but good luck. You know, like none of those Amherst were happy that they lost the game, but they still went through the handshake. Like Gene's above sportsmanship. I love this.
Not above sportsmanship. I'm not competing. I don't have to interact with Crunch fan. Nothing says I have to interact with these people.
I like the move.
Good for the happy Canadians.
I like the move, and I think we should adopt more of what Canada has. I think that's a brilliant move, and I know there are people listening who are with me on this. Like at the end of a series, they'll be waiting. We'll have a post-series handshake line with the opposing fan.
There is no one listening that's with you on this one.
I guarantee
they're with me on this one. Get back to Syracuse as fast as you can.
I'll share the video. You'll see it.
I used to make fun of Nick Sirianni. Heck, we did. Section 5 Sirianni for all this platitudes and growing grass. And
basically had to beg for his job, right? He was on the hot seat.
Right, and also he kind of looks that way. Like if you're bringing in coordinators they didn't have anything to do with. But maybe he just figured it out here. He's got to loosen up a little bit. He's trolling Giant fans.
Oh, I know.
Quote, sometimes you see Giants fans around here being so close, and they give me a good, hey, go Giants. And I typically let it go. But if the fan gets me good enough, I usually say, you know what? We got your best player.
Yeah.
Talking about Saquon.
I get it. I see what he's doing here. Listen, if you're a Philly fan, if you're a fan of the Eagles, you know, the Giants and the Cowboys, I mean, you just hate these organizations. I mean, he was wearing the Dallas Sucks t-shirt at his press conference. That's not a move that he's making because he's just doing that just to appease a fan base, a rabid fan base. And to say what he's saying here is another move to get the fan base behind him, to get, you know, fans not hating him when his team inevitably falls short like it did last year. I see him working here. And I love Saquon Barkley. I think he's a phenomenal player. I'm excited to see what he does in Philadelphia. And I would say probably was the Giants' best player that they'd let him walk.
People could say, hey, can the defense be better? Can Saquon Barkley add something? It comes down to this for the Eagles this year. can they get Big Dom back on the sideline?
That's right.
Because when Big Dom was on the sideline managing Nick Sirianni and his emotions, once Big Dom was banned, then look what happened to the Eagles in December.
You ban a guy and you start losing games. You want to know? Because the guy that you banned, because he's Italian. Don't do that to him. We got another one. Anthony Cosenza is next in the sports. Why is Anthony Cosenza next in the sports bar? Because he's Italian, Gino. All right. Well, he also hosts the Orange and Black Insider podcast. We go to Cincinnati in the Cincy jungle next to talk to Anthony about the Bengals off season on the Fan.
You're listening to
are right here on The Fan Rochester. Listen anytime on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Got some Amerks coaching news today. According to Brad Elliott Schlossman, he writes for the Grand Forks Herald, the Amerks are close to hiring Michael Leone as their new head coach. Leone, previously the head coach in Green Bay in junior hockey, also worked with the U.S. National Developmental Team. Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up tomorrow night. Dallas and Boston. Mavs coach Jason Kidd on being back to the finals.
It's gratifying and it does feel good to be able to be here. We've put in a lot of time. It's fun. It's chess. I love playing chess and understanding it to put the guys in a position to be successful.
On the Major League scoreboard, Red Sox over the Braves 9-0. Cardinals beat the Astros 4-2. Top of the third, Giants up in Arizona 2-1. Rain delay in Washington between the Nationals and the Mets. Gene Battaglia, The Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Let's check in on the offseason for the Cincinnati Bengals. We welcome in one of our favorites from the Cincy Jungle, the Orange and Black Insider Podcast. Anthony Cosenza is stopping by. Anthony, when Justin Jefferson got his deal, I'm just sitting by and waiting for the Bengals to sign Jamar Chase sooner rather than later. And I think why we have you on with us today and why we think the Bengals are so fascinating is how they're dealing with their offseason and trying to manage paying all of their stars now that they've paid their quarterback is fascinating to me. And it could be a tell as to just how functional the Bengals are. What's their next move?
Well, they definitely. First of all, good to be back on with you guys. Hi. I think that the next move is obviously figuring out what the futures are with their two star wide receivers. You know that this is the league has kind of become, as you guys know, contractually for the big positions and the big contracts that are doled out. It's that domino that falls. Okay, who's the next guy in line to get signed? I think a lot of people, if you remember last year, once some of the deals started coming out and falling into line, your Lamar Jacksons and Jalen Hurts and all of these at the quarterback position, you kind of felt like, well, any day now, Burrow's deal is going to get done. And it kind of went on and on and on and on and on. And finally it got done. So it got done a little later than a lot of people expected, but it got done. And, he got his big mega deal. And I think Chase is next. And then, of course, the Bengals have to have a big decision to figure out with T. Higgins. There's a little bit of a pretty strong line in the sand from his camp that's been drawn in terms of, hey, I want the long-term deal or else potentially trade me. He hasn't signed the franchise tag deal that they placed on him at this point. So he is not at workouts. Chase hasn't been at workouts, but they plan on him being back for the mandatory ones, and we'll kind of go from there. But the Bengals, they've been obviously more aggressive on the contract front and paying not only their internal stars and being a little more active in outside free agency in the past few years, but they're still not going to – I mean, they're going to do their due diligence, and they're going to, make sure that everything is, in line in terms of value and both sides get taken care of in terms of the player and the team.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Higgins here because we've seen this with quarterbacks, right? We saw Kirk Cousins made a fortune off of going year after year on the tag. Dak Prescott played his cards correctly. Doesn't happen too often with a non-quarterback. The example I can think of is, the running back there for the Pittsburgh Steelers there.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell, who all of a sudden, his career went sideways, and you could say maybe it was already going to go that direction. But the idea that Higgins could actually play under just the 1 year, under the 1 year tag, is that something that you would think would be possible here?
I think at some point, there's kind of some strong talk about, I'm not playing under this, that sort of thing. But, we've seen it also. Like you said, we saw a couple of players play on back-to-back tags or that sort of thing. I don't know that that's going to be the case for the Bengals. That would set a new precedent for them. But we've seen players kind of in the summer months, the spring months, kind of do that tough talk when it comes time to for the franchise tag, and it ends up kind of, hey, here they are in the dog days of summer at training camp towards the end or right before the season, that sort of thing. Same thing kind of happened quite a bit with Jesse Bates when he was playing on the franchise tag. He didn't come out and say, I want to be traded, but obviously it was well known, same agent, by the way, as T. Higgins, that he wants to, have a long-term deal, and he didn't show up for a lot of workouts and training camp and that sort of thing. So that's probably what may happen here, but I think the Bengals, in a lot of things that Zach Taylor has said and everything, I mean, it sounds like they're expecting Higgins to be there at some point, play for this season. I mean, I think also, not only are they taking care of Chase potentially as kind of that group of superstar wide receivers, but they also need to crunch those numbers to see what they can and can't make work out with Higgins potentially long-term as well. So that's another domino. Once you get that Chase deal in place, you have the figures, the cap hits, et cetera, then you can maybe structure a long-term deal for Higgins around that. The Bengals pay their wide receivers. They draft wide receivers pretty well for all the shortcomings that franchise has experienced over the years. They know how to draft, groom, and have a lot of star wide receivers. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, they keep star players like a T. Higgins, but they also know how to draft them well, even outside of the first round.
And on top of all of this, we've only been talking about the offensive side of the ball. And they get Trey Hendrickson. He wants to get paid too. What does Cincinnati do with their star pass rusher?
That's a good question. He kind of received a little mini extension last year, and then all of a sudden, I think a lot of people were kind of blindsided by the fact that he kind of came out and almost gave the same kind of ultimatum. Although he came return to spring workouts and OTA stuff, and said, I want to be a leader. I want to, I don't want this to hinder my year. And he actually, I think, referenced Jesse Bates a little bit about, hey, he saw and heard from Jesse about how the lingering contract issues can affect on-field play. So he kind of recognized that, and even though he wants a new deal or an extension on his current deal, and is deserving, especially when you look at the season he had last year and what he's done for the Bengals since joining them in 2021, he's deserving, but he's also kind of one of those guys approaching 30. The Bengals kind of start to stay away from guys as they get to that realm. And some of the guys in the past that they've paid that have been in their 30s haven't worked out as well as they had hoped. The outlier, of course, being Andrew Whitworth, who they let walk when he was in his 30s, and then obviously went on and had a phenomenal final stretch of his career with the Rams. So there's a fine line to walk here. I think it'll get worked out with Hendrickson, but it may not be to the full extent that he is envisioning.
Before we ask about Joe Burrow, there's another new face in Cincinnati, one we're familiar with. We've had Zach Moss on our show, and Zach Moss in Buffalo and, kind of didn't get the opportunity, certainly with the Colts, not with Jonathan Taylor, but now he's the leading man in Cincinnati, or is there somebody else that might kind of, challenge him for some of the carries here? How does Zach Moss fit into this offense, Anthony?
Well, he's going to be the lead back, quote unquote. He's going to be the 1A. I think you're going to see a lot of second-year running back Chase Brown. He was a fifth-round pick the year prior, and missed a little bit of time during the season with some injury issues, et cetera, but really came on strong towards the end of the season. Was a nice player when Jake Browning was in there in relief of Burrow towards the end of the year. You saw a couple of big plays in terms of like a screen pass he took all the way to the house and a couple of nice runs. So they have high hopes for him, and really what they're wanting, since they lost, especially since they lost Samaje Perine in free agency last year, they need better pass protection out of their running backs. Zach Moss brings that. Chase Brown is working on that. And then you've got a couple of other guys in the background, Travion Williams and others that could help you out. This is going to be a lot more of a by-committee approach than it was when Joe Mixon was with the team. And I think that they're going to kind of do that on a number of different positions on their team. I think interior defensive line is also one of them that they're going to do that, hoping to get a little more rotational help from the edge positions. So running back's going to be by committee. Moss is going to be the lead guy, quote unquote, but I think you're still going to see a lot of touches, particularly from Chase Brown.
Anthony, I always say that dysfunction starts at the top, and the Bengals for years and years and years were viewed as a dysfunctional organization, and it started with ownership and worked its way down. Now, if you get a franchise quarterback, that can be one hell of a deodorant for a dysfunctional organization, and Joe Burrow is that, and we've seen Joe Burrow do amazing things with his time in Cincinnati. But that injury last year, that wrist injury, is something that I'm so curious to see if we'll be able to tell the effects of that wrist injury from last year and whether or not he's able to come back and look like the Joe Burrow that we all saw go to the Super Bowl. What's your take on the Burrow injury, his recovery, and how he might look here coming into the mandatory portion of OTAs?
Well, spring workouts, et cetera, a lot of the wide receivers and, some of the defensive backs, Mike Hilton and others kind of said, Burrow's back. He's got the zip on the ball. He looks good. Andre Yosivash, second-year wide receiver, also I think echoed some of those sentiments and said, "Hey, it looks good. You're seeing some nice." And now, granted, this is in shorts and helmets, no helmets type of thing, and he's throwing nice balls to you see on the clips to the rookie Jermaine Burton. But I mean, it really comes down to when really game speed stuff. The true zip on the ball. I know there's a lot out there about. This injury's never been seen before by a right-handed quarterback that comes back and throws the ball all the time and all of that. I think, time will tell, obviously, but if there is a guy to come back and bounce back well from an injury, I think it is Joe Burrow. They are managing a lot of his reps and throwing days, et cetera. Kind of a little bit of a weird anomaly this week. They were kind of, they had set days where he was going to take a day off of these practices every week. And that fell yesterday, which was like one of their first days of major OTAs type of thing. And then he was supposed to throw today, and then supposedly he didn't. So it's a little bit of a weird thing. There's a little bit of concern going on with it, but again, an unprecedented situation in a lot of ways. But I think they're managing it well. He feels good by all reports, and the player's saying he looks good in the limited throwing he has done so far since coming back from it. Seems to be ahead of, if not right on schedule, with the recovery period and everything that's been earmarked for him. So a little bit of time will tell, but I'm optimistic.
He's our Bengals guy, Anthony Cosenza, Cincy Jungle, Orange and Black Insider. We'll tell you more where you can get his content here. He's joining us in the sports bar. Anthony, when we've already had you on, I've asked you some sort of variance of this question, and when I'm looking at things to like about Cincinnati, right up at the top of the list next to Burrow is coaching, Lou Anarumo. And I understand, like, the trend in the league, right? We need to hire a head coach, and we've got a young quarterback. We need to maximize the talent of that young quarterback, and that's why you really don't see defensive coordinators getting jobs these days. But other than that, do you have any other theories as to why Lou Anarumo just doesn't get more opportunities to make that next step?
Well, oddly enough, and not just because they both coached for the Bengals, if you look at the career arcs of Lou Anarumo and Mike Zimmer, they are really, really similar. Mike Zimmer was a guy who was a defensive assistant position coach, D coordinator for years and years and years and years. And finally, once that Bengals defense towards the end of Carson Palmer's time with the Bengals and in the early parts of Andy Dalton there, when they were really getting after folks, he got his due and got a job, and then the Bengals kind of kept promoting from within. They did that on the offensive side of the ball this year when Brian Callahan went to Tennessee and Dan Pitcher now is the offensive coordinator. But my only guess, he started to get some interviews around, he got some interest for head coaching jobs around that year they made the Super Bowl and the year after when they made the AFC Championship. Last year there was a big fall off on the defensive side of the ball for the Bengals, and I think that was some free agency attrition. You lost both Jesse Bates and Von Bell in the same offseason. You had a lot of new guys you were integrating into the system. There were maybe a little bit more depth issues than were initially perceived. And so the defense really got gashed in a lot of ways. And then you throw in offensive ineffectiveness towards the beginning of the year and then in the first stages of the Jake Browning takeover. And that really put a lot of pressure on the defense to perform, and it didn't do well. So I think he had some initial interest. He got bypassed over a lot of times for these young offensive-minded head coaches that are so in vogue in the league right now. And then, you had this fall off the cliff a bit from the defense of the Bengals last year, and so the interest cooled this year. So it's a big year for him, too, professionally, as the Bengals went pretty heavy in in free agency and a little bit in the draft too on defense to restock some of those positions that really needed some help and were really hurting last year.
AFC North was the best division in football last year, and I you mentioned Jake Browning. Like, I still marvel at the Bengals having a winning record with Jake Browning, being out there, starting a handful of those games. Talk a little bit about the other three teams in the division and how Cincinnati stacks up against the Steelers, the Browns, and of course the Ravens.
It is you can call it a number of different things. It's the best division in football. It's the toughest division in football. All four teams play outdoors. They play in lousy weather, and they just really beat the heck out of each other when they play each other. It's physical. There's a lot of nastiness to it, chippiness to it. The Bengals, for a little while, had a decent amount of success in the Zach Taylor era in finally getting past the Steelers a little bit, getting some wins against the Ravens a little bit, that sort of thing. The Browns have been a real thorn in the side for the Bengals. They just cannot figure out ways to beat them, and they seem to be that's just a matchup issue, whether it's Myles Garrett and company wreaking havoc on defense. They just do not match up well with that team. They really, really, really need to at least split in the division. They came out of the gates 0-2 on the season last year, and those first two games were division games. They went to Cleveland and lost, and then lost at home to Baltimore to start the year last year, and that really just hamstrung them the rest of the way. Now they started to make a run at things towards the middle of the season, then Burrow gets hurt. So they need to be able to, not only for playoff seedings and potential divisional crowns and all that kind of stuff, but it's also to prove that they can, continue to beat the elite teams in the NFL on a somewhat regular basis. They need to be able to be more competitive in that division. I think they were 1-5 last year in the division. They just could not, find a way to win those games. And a couple of them were critical, particularly the two Steeler games. Those were critical as the Bengals were still in the hunt late in the year. So they need to find a way to do that. And I think that's also, not to pinpoint one position, but that's why the Trent Brown signing in free agency at right tackle and the Amarius Mims offensive tackle selection in the first round makes a ton of sense for the Cincinnati Bengals, because TJ Watt routinely ruins games for him. Myles Garrett routinely ruins games for him. The Baltimore Ravens pass rush, they can get after you in a lot of different areas. They don't have a Watt or a Garrett per se, but they've got guys that can get after you from a number of different spots. So basically, just being able to stifle or stalemate a little bit against Watt and Garrett gives you a big chance to even things out in the division. They need to do that if they're going to make a run this year.
Anthony, last one for me, and it's about your stadium. And I've been to Cincinnati, but not while the Bengals have been in town, so I've never been in the stadium. I don't think of it being old. I don't think of it being in need of repairs or upgrades, but tell us what's going on with the Bengals stadium.
Well, they're doing all kinds of different, kind of the concession upgrades and all kinds of different things to the concourse and that sort of thing. You don't think of it as being an old stadium, but I mean, this is a stadium at its inception that players like Peter Warrick and Akili Smith were playing on that turf. So, I mean, it's been around for a long time. They've done some incremental things like the big, they've replaced the jumbotrons to nice LED things, and they've done some internal things for the players, better weight room facilities, and all kinds of different things. But as we all know, I mean, there's the Jerry Worlds of the NFL, and the thing out in LA, the SoFi Stadium in LA, and it's it's a keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. So at some point, this may be a discussion, and that's where things are kind of heading. Is it stadium replacement time? If so, when? And where's that going to go? And all of that. So they've kind of done the incremental things that are obviously far less expensive than rebuilding a stadium or overhauling a stadium. But I get your point. It actually feels kind of just nice and clean and neat in there. It's not overly spectacular, but it is older than I think a lot of people perceive it to be. So it's going to be, especially if the team continues winning, going far in the playoffs, the team will have that leverage with the city and the fans and all of that if they are going to push for a new stadium.
Anthony, appreciate you giving us some of your time this afternoon. Let our audience know more about the Cincy Jungle and your Orange and Black Insider Pod.
Yeah, so we do some writing on on Cincy Jungle, which is part of the SB Nation blog and network, and we do have a channel. We've actually recently moved over to the Believe podcast channel. Pretty excited about that move. So a slate of Bengals podcasts that we have as a channel. We're bringing you Bengals content pretty much every day of the week, and that is the Believe in Cincy Bengals podcast channel. And the show that I co-host with my co-host John is the Orange and Black Insider at Bengals OBI on Twitter. You can find it on YouTube, and we have some fun doing it.
Anthony, really appreciate this, and who knows? Maybe we get another Bills-Bengals playoff game. We got to touch base.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
Would love it. Anthony, thanks for your time today. Let's catch up during the season.
All right, guys. Thank you. Take care.
You got it. There he is, Anthony Cosenza, giving us the latest out of Cincinnati. The Orange and Black Insider stopping by the sports bar there. They are. It's all about Joe Burrow's health. If Joe Burrow can't throw a football the way we've grown accustomed to seeing him throw football, that team is. I don't know that they have enough to sustain that. I mean, like, look, they had a winning record last year after a slow start, and Jake Browning led them to some improbable wins. I just think it's Joe Burrow masks a lot of deficiencies that team has. There's talent.
Well, and I'd also point this because you could say, hey, I don't like Joe Mixon as a person. Okay, that's fine. Look, I like Zach Moss. Is he ready to be a leading man in this league at running back?
I mean, given the opportunity that he had in Indianapolis, I would say yes. But there's a reason why the Bills were okay with parting ways with Zach Moss in favor of, God, can you imagine Zach Moss for Nyheim Hines? Indy won that trade.
They did, but Nyheim Hines provides the play that you needed.
It gives you a couple of plays, that you absolutely needed if you wouldn't have had them.
There's been some bad Brandon Bean trades. That's not number one on the list. Yeah.
Let's get to happy hour next in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia.
We got an Amber coach?
We might have an Amber coach. We get a report, a scoop out of the most unlikely of places, but a place that's near and dear to my heart. We'll explain who could be behind the bench for the Rochester Americans next season. And we'll take your calls as well at 866-4FAM. We really appreciate you stopping by the sports bar, making us part of your routine. If you're listening in the Odyssey app, it's free to download. Also on YouTube and Twitch, check out our channel, The Fan Rochester, on YouTube and Twitch. Happy hour next.
You're listening to the
WBEE HD2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
We have some Amerks coaching news from an unlikely source, according to Brad Elliott Schlossman. He writes for the Grand Forks Herald. The Amerks are close to hiring Michael Leone as the new head coach. Leone, previously the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in junior hockey. Leone also has U.S. developmental team experience on his resume. Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up tomorrow night. It's Dallas and Boston. Boston's Jason Tatum is ready.
You want to be one of the greats, right, to put on this uniform. Every great before you won a championship. And that's what we try to play for every single season. The expectations are obviously different here.
On the Major League Scoreboard, Red Sox over the Braves 9-0. Phillies and Brewers scoreless in the fourth. Another final, the Cardinals over the Astros 4-2. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win a Super Bowl.
So you can ask the Buffalo Bills how important Super Bowl experience is.
Mike Danger.
Putting my foot down, I have an unpopular opinion. I'm sure a lot of people will find it to be an unpopular opinion. I don't care.
Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, you're all fired up for June football, everybody. Yeah, that's some really A-plus coach speak.
I miss Chubby Tour, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Amerks Hockey.
Mike Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League.
Because he's Italian!
Don Stevens. The Stanley Cup Final, the NBA Finals. JJ Redick. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
I am not his running mate anymore.
WNBA refs now taking heat for a quick ejection of Angel Reese last night. Reese got back-to-back techs in the fourth quarter.
Really? If you build it, they will come, right? So we are going to test our mental fortitude this week, boys.
We need some tears. Oh, we need some prayers. Can we get some prayers? Oh, we see some prayers. Give me some tears. Can we get some tears? We get some tears? Okay, we don't have any tears. I mean, look who you're catering to here. This is
The Sports Bar, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's not every day that we get to source Brad Elliott Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald, but I want to give the man his shine. According to Schloss.
Is he of the Grand Forks Schlossmans then?
I believe so.
Okay.
The Rochester Americans are close to hiring Mike Leone from the Green Bay Gamblers. And you mentioned in your sports update, he's worked with the development program, and this would kind of fit in line with what Buffalo has done when bringing up Ron Rolston or Don Granato or Seth Appert. This is the pool they like to go fishing in. And Schlossman believes that the Amerks are close to this deal.
I think it's the right hire. But that being said, it's also kind of the reminder that, hey, that's our purpose here, to develop. And winning is nice, and that's like a really close 1B to the 1A of development. But there's going to be a learning curve. Okay, he's never been at this level. Now, Seth Appert was never at this level. But then again, Seth Appert had a lot of experience in college hockey, which isn't that far off. Michael Leone, 36. Actually, you know, he first came up on our radar yesterday when we talked to Lance Isowski from the Buffalo News.
Mike Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League, who was also at the development program. His time there coincided briefly with Seth Appert's. His coach in the international tournaments as an assistant. Not a whole lot of head coaching experience, only 36 years old, but obviously somebody who is being considered here because they feel he can pick up the baton from Seth Appert and continue to the culture, the everything that they've done in Rochester since 2020 in terms of operating is very similar to what the development program in Plymouth, Michigan has been.
Lance laying out a lot of good reasons why Mike Leone might end up being the next head coach of the Rochester Americans, forgetting the most important reason. I mean, listen, if you're coming to Rochester, right, Mike Leone is going to get this job because he's Italian.
fully expect him to be on the west side, right? He could not possibly be living in Pittsburgh.
Dude, I don't even know if he actually is Italian. I just know his name sounds Italian. He's a young guy. I mean, like...
No, I know Leone's in Rochester. Like Chuck Leone's a listener to the show. Yeah, that's an Italian name.
All right. So if he comes to town, of course, we're going to welcome him with open arms. And yeah, he should be on the west side. Don't fall for the trap. When you come to don't think that you go east side. No. Your last name ends in a vowel. You're west side, baby.
You more value for your home on the west side. Fact. Fact.
All right, now we're gonna get our east side friends.
I know.
Kevin Roach and everybody's gonna talk about how disjointed we are. So look, if that move happens for all the reasons that Lance pointed out, I mean the lack of head coaching experience. Yeah, okay. But a younger guy, and if Seth Appert is involved, I'm gonna wait to cast judgment just because I remember having this exact conversation when the Amerks moved on from Chris Taylor, brought in Seth Appert, and it was at a time when Taylor looked like they had the organization moving in a direction where they were going to start winning more postseason games. And we had this conversation about, well, this is a reminder that it's about development and it's not really about winning championships. Well, I think if you're able to do both, then you're able to do what Seth Appert nearly did here. If you can get more out of your coach, if he's at a younger age able to connect more, and Seth Appert is part of the connection there, that he knows this guy, that they've crossed paths. It's not necessarily what you know, but who you know, and he's got those relationships already built in.
When we were discussing this, mainly online with people, right, on X, and saying, well, who's the name that always came up? Oh, they're waiting for Michael Pekka. And all along, we're like, no. Michael Pekka is in a really good spot. Michael Pekka is going to be a head coach in the NHL. He's not coming back. Well, for everybody, that's the irony. No, you're not getting Michael Pekka from the New York Rangers, but you are getting the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers.
Yeah. Enjoy that. Look, I think it'll be fine. If that is indeed the direction that they go, I'm excited for it. I'm excited if that gets announced soon. I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to him. And I hope we can develop the same kind of relationship here in the sports bar with Leone that we did with Seth Appert over time. I mean, it was sad to see Seth Appert go.
You're excited. I'm indifferent. I'm going to be just like, okay, that doesn't surprise me, but I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm so excited for this hire. I'm like, he's never coached at this level.
I'm more excited to learn more about what he's about, I guess, more than anything. Yeah. I'm more excited to learn more about the guy that will be behind the bench, more about his personality. Because we learned pretty quickly with Seth Appert, like, oh, yeah, he's different. We're asking him questions, and he's giving us answers that are really insightful and somewhat thought-provoking, and wouldn't hold back. If his team played bad, he would tell us why behind in games where they lost. No, that was our best game that we played. Right. He was always very candid with us, and never felt like he was disingenuous in any way. And I'm curious if he has this, if this is part of his makeup as well.
I'm also like question number one: do you keep the staff here? Because the assistant coaches Prospel and Page, I would think Pager would be in. Like, he married the Rochester girl. Happy that Nathan was kind of doing this. I didn't know if he was going to be a leading candidate or not.
Yeah,
but if
these guys are all around the same age,
right? So I think that okay, can you still be on the staff here? Do you still want to be here?
Yeah.
Or are you looking at other possibilities?
Yeah, I would be curious to know if there's any pre-existing relationship, if Leone knows of Pacher or Prospel.
And the other thing, too, Danger, is like we could go down the whole list with all the veterans that were on that team. They say that they're going to make sure that all these players, that they're going to make an effort to come back, but how does this factor in? Like, oh, I'm going to come play for somebody. I'm going to come play for Michael Leone. I don't know. I don't know if that's a factor or not. I would think for a lot of these guys, ultimately it comes down to, okay, how much are you actually going to pay me? Are the Sabres going to make that commitment?
Right. So there's your Amerks news for the day out of an unlikely source, out of the Grand Forks Herald, the town and the newspaper, the fish wrap that I grew up reading as a kid, looking for the funny pages every Sunday. And in that town, if you're covering hockey in that town, I'm going to say hockey. So
you got to cover all levels, and that's how he came. How would he come across that scoop, though? I'm kind of embarrassed that I got scooped by somebody from the Grand Forks Herald.
Green Bay is closer to Grand Forks than Rochester is closer to Green Bay. That's what
I thought you were going to say Green Bay is closer than Grand Forks than Green Bay is closer to Milwaukee or something like that. No.
Yeah, Bart Winkler's going to join. Maybe we can ask Bart about his the minor league, the junior league hockey team.
Actually, like Bart, have you ever heard of the Green? You know how I know the Green Bay Gamblers, because the former RIT captain Cameron Burr was a Green Bay Gambler. So it's like hockey, those hockey programs, those junior programs, the really good ones.
Yeah,
they churn them out, and like Green Bay is one of them. That is one of the premier teams in junior hockey.
Hey, how about this? Let me lay out for you a month of football action that I might right now just, Gino, I'm telling you, I might just put in for 2 weeks at the end of the year.
What do you mean might? You always do.
No, stop. Not always. I mean, there was a time where I would take pretty much the month of December off. And maybe I'll alter it and take a month off, but stretch it over mid-December.
Welcome to the Sports Bar with Battaglia and Dan Drummy today on the show.
December 19th through January 20th. This is going to be a month of football unlike anything we have ever seen.
So the 19th, what day of the week is that?
I want to say that's a Thursday.
Okay, that is, well, you are correct. That's a Thursday.
On December 19th, you get Thursday Night Football. Browns at Bengals. We just had Anthony Cosenza on with us.
Sign me up for that.
Good game.
Yeah.
And AFC North Divisional rival. Then, on Friday, December 20th, through Saturday, December 21st, round 1 of the college football playoff. The dates were announced today. Go ahead and follow up on the 21st.
Wait, so do we know the sites for those? Danger, sorry to interrupt.
No, they're going to be on the campuses. We don't know the sites.
Oh,
the quarterfinal games are on the campuses.
Okay.
So you could have Ohio State hosting. You could have Penn State hosting a game in December, a college football quarterfinal.
Oh, I love that.
Now, simultaneously on that Saturday, the 21st, you've got the Texans at the Chiefs, and you've got the Steelers at the Ravens. These are your Christmas Day games, right? Mm-hmm. Remember, your Christmas Day is the following week, so you had to get them on Saturday. The Texans at the Chiefs, the Steelers at the Ravens. Then, that Sunday, you've got 12 NFL games. Monday, 12:23, Saints at Packers. Okay, the matchup isn't great. It's Monday Night Football, but Saints at Packers. Lambeau in December.
Packers are going to be a playoff team, you would figure. So, yeah, certainly we're watching that.
Christmas Day, you got the Chiefs at the Steelers and the Ravens at the Texans. We knew that was part of the NFL schedule. Even though Christmas falls on a Wednesday, you'll have a doubleheader of NFL action before you get to Thursday Night Football on December 26th. The Seahawks at the Bears. I know somebody who might be watching that game. Then you go ahead and have 12 NFL games that following Sunday, December 29th. Monday Night Football on December 30th. Lions at Niners.
They're saving that one till the end? Wow.
Yeah. Now you've got your college football quarterfinals on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And if you missed it earlier, I mean, they've got all the traditional bowl games worked out. You're still going to get the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. You've got the triple header on New Year's Day. These are your college football playoff quarterfinals on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You've got a full slate of 16 NFL games on January 5th. January 9th and 10th, your college football playoff semifinals.
It's Thursday and Friday.
Yes. Then you've got Super Wild Card Weekend in the NFL, January 11th through the 13th. Following weekend divisional round in the NFL, January 18th through the 19th, leading up to a Monday night national championship in the college football playoff.
Secret loser in this, the NBA. Because the NBA, hey, Christmas is our holiday.
No.
We're the NFL, not anymore.
Yeah.
Pew! Okay, I guess we'll settle for Martin Luther King Day. No, we're college football. We're going to take that. Yeah, that's when it's going to land there. That is, hopefully that doesn't cause a lot of couples to split up.
That's exquisite.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
That's exquisite. That's why I'm saying.
You're taking off, why stop there? Just take off January. Take off the first 3 weeks in January.
I might need a few days. I might need some paid time off. during that stretch of football action. That's exquisite.
Is there anything that's too much in there? Because other than, hey, it's Ravens and Steelers butting up, I'm impressed how they kind of avoided each other for the most part.
I think that I think Christmas Day is going to be a tough one for me.
I think so too. I'm not. You can't plan your day around it. If it's on, great. If it's not,
right. That might be background noise. Chiefs at Steelers, Ravens at Texans. Look, great matchups on paper as of right now. Great matchups. I don't know what the Steelers are going to be. And the Texans have to prove that they're not a fluky team from last year. I don't think that they are, but that might be a tough one. Christmas Day, maybe at that point we take a little bit of a break.
College football is poised to take off. Like, if you had to say which sport in the last 2 years has taken the biggest step, it's women's college basketball. Maybe we're talking about it for the wrong reasons, or not the reasons everybody would like with the WNBA and some of the stuff that's going on, but we're talking about it. College football is about ready to take a massive it will never overtake the NFL. In some areas of the country it already has, yeah. But it will be right up there. Does it get to the point, Danger? Because I always thought it was, if you had to do it, baseball fans, I'm sorry, it was number one being the NFL, number two the NBA, number three college football. Does college football, because of this format, and because, hey, everybody's going to get invested along the way when you're watching the quarterfinal, the semifinal, here you are, the final, will college football become the 1B to the 1A?
I already think it is. I mean, you said it. In some parts of the country, it's already more popular than the NFL. I'm just looking at the schedule. It just lays out perfectly. You've got your traditional bowl games, New Year's Eve. The first quarterfinal is a primetime game, the Fiesta Bowl. New Year's Day, you've got your triple header with the Peach Bowl early, the Rose Bowl sandwiched there in between the Peach early, and the Sugar Bowl as your nightcap on New Year's Day.
See, I love that. See, because it happens New Year's Day on a Wednesday, I don't know what they're going to do one year when it actually falls like on a Sunday. Would the NFL kind of bend a knee there and allow the Rose Bowl to be played in the time frame we're used to it being? I don't know, but that's great that they actually have the foresight, Danger, to like, all right, let's play these games third week in December and make sure that we're lining up when people really want college football.
Yeah, and that first round of the college football playoff is going to be intriguing when you consider that it's going to be hosted on college campuses, that you'll have college football games being played on campus on Friday, December 20th and Saturday, December 21st.
So this is going back to my point originally, but you know what? No one will care. Like the weekends of it's the Big 12 championship or the SEC. Okay, great. Another thing we can kind of bet on, but there's not going to be that passion like we really need this game. The loser in those mega conferences, they're going to be in too. So those games are really not going to mean much. I don't think they're going to get the travel, but the idea that you can have a home playoff game now.
Now, the only thing that I'm questioning about this, and somebody who actually went to college for more than 2 months needs to school me on what campus looks like in late December.
What, you know the answer to that?
It's empty.
It's tumbleweed.
Right.
Yeah.
So that if the people will go to these games, but will the student body still be there? Will the student section still be as raucous?
No, it doesn't happen for Syracuse basketball. Even though maybe you have a big opponent, would some students come back? Absolutely, they would come back. But a lot of these college towns, Danger, you will get people coming back in. They'll
come back for the game. Yeah,
it'll look a little different.
I'm trying to visualize this through the life of my niece, who's at Penn State, who I know comes home for the holiday and loves being home for the holiday, but loves football more than family. So she'd probably go back to Penn State for the chance to see a home playoff game against Ohio State, say.
What world do you live in where Penn State's going to get over the new Big Ten?
I know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm sorry. It was just too easy.
No, look, I have to listen to her and her dad chirp about how great the season's going to be. I hear it every year.
Yeah, and then you can't beat Ohio State and you can't beat Michigan, but you're a good mid-tier team in that conference.
Oof. Penn State the New York Mets of college football?
Now you're going too far there, bud. Now you're going too far. I didn't say that. That was Mike Danger.
So yeah, that's football nirvana, folks. I can't wait. That's going to be a lot of fun. They just announced the college football playoff schedule earlier today. And when you pair it with what the NFL has already cooked up with their schedule, it's going to be a month of football. Just hard to break away. It's going to be one of the things where my wife looks at me and says, Again? Another one? When does it stop? When does, just...
That's why you got to take the foot off the pedal on Christmas Day or certain things. Yeah, you have a phone, you could look at your fantasy team and just kind of figure things out from there. But
continuous negotiations, as we say. Continuous negotiations.
Well, that is exciting, though.
Yeah, for sure. If you missed Anthony Cosenza, the Cincy Jungle, the Orange and Black Insider, if you missed PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL network, you can catch both of those conversations in the free-to-download Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. Search out the Sports Bar. We sure do appreciate you stopping by, making us part of your routine at 95.7 FM, AM 950. In that free-to-download Odyssey app on your smart device, when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, we've even got the video stream up and rolling for you. You can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you're there as well. Leave us a comment. We always appreciate that. Let's get to a round of shots.
Yeah, as things coming up in the Sports Bar we can tell you about here, as we've got, we can tell you a little more about Michael Leone. There is a report that he will be offered the Amerks head coaching job. We're waiting for the official word on that, but we'll give you a little bit of his background. Boy, this NBA Finals, Danger, it is setting records in terms of the secondary pricing for tickets on this. We go over the reasons why here, Dallas and Boston. Some news about the Yankees here. Boy, they are on a roll. Are they not here? And then, some audio too. Like if you watch Jeopardy sometimes, do you ever notice as a sports fan, they don't really cater to us at all?
Jeopardy?
Yeah.
I don't watch enough Jeopardy to notice that.
I used to. It used to annoy me.
Okay. We'll get to that. We got a round of shots on the way here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
Sports Update.
We have Amherst coaching news according to Brad Elliott Schlossman. He writes for the Grand Forks Herald. The Amherst are close to hiring Michael Leone as their new head coach. Leone, previously the head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in junior hockey. Leone also working with the U.S. national developmental team. Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight, Dallas and Boston. And it's actually tomorrow night. Mavs head coach Jason Kidd on being the finals.
But it's gratifying and it does feel good to be able to be here. We've put in a lot of time. It's fun. It's chess. I love playing chess and understanding it to put the guys in a position to be successful.
On the Major League scoreboard, Red Sox shutting out the Braves 9-0. Cardinals over the Astros 4-2. Just underway, the rain delay over Mets and Nationals. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey is your home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today to listen to the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Mike Leone, who's currently head coach of the Green Bay Gamblers in the United States Hockey League, who was also at the development program. His time there coincided briefly with Seth Appert's, his coach in the international tournaments as an assistant. Not a whole lot of head coaching experience, only 36 years old, but obviously somebody who is being considered here because they feel he can pick up the baton from Seth Appert and continue to the culture, the everything that they've done in Rochester since 2020 in terms of operating it very similar to what the development program in Plymouth, Michigan has been.
That's Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News joining us yesterday in the sports bar to talk about Mike Leone.
Yeah, Mike Leone. Fun fact about Mike Leone, he never played in the American Hockey League. He did play college hockey, though, for 4 different schools. Now, this is before the time of the portal, mind you. Started at Adrian, went to Utica, Lindenwood, and then he made it up to Division I, Western Michigan. In his pro career as a player, the highest he ever made it was Toledo of the ECHL. He's never played or coached at the American Hockey League level.
I'm excited. If this is indeed the direction that they go, bringing in somebody that's younger, a little less experienced, but has a history with development and has crossed paths with Seth Appert, I'm going to trust that they know what they're doing with this one and reserve judgment, but it doesn't feel wrong to me.
Well, I'll say this. I was not excited about Sean McDermott, and that was the right choice. I'm not excited about this. I don't know Michael Leone.
Right.
And, I do know Nathan Page. I do know a little bit about Adam Mayer. I thought there were internal candidates that you could have brought in. So, again, we'll see if this report is real. There's no comment. There's nobody else verifying this. But if you have the hockey writer for the Grand Forks Herald, as you mentioned, AJ, they take that very, very seriously.
Yeah, he's probably, look, don't let Grand Forks be the thing that deters you from this guy not knowing what he's talking about. I'm fairly certain that if he's covering hockey in that town, he knows his stuff.
According to Forbes, this NBA Finals setting the record for highest ticket prices on the secondary market. The average price between the Celtics and the Mavs now has crossed $4,000 per ticket. My gosh, it wasn't that long ago we had Super Bowl prices that way. Mind you can find seats much cheaper, but if you really want the good seats, it's going to cost you. The get-in price, by the way, for tomorrow night's Game 1, right now standing at $931.
That's a hefty price to pay. Can't wait. It's going to be a fun series, man. Lots of little storylines and narratives here and high drama. PJ says Celtics in 6.
Yeah, 6. He could see it go 7.
Yeah, man. I really, really want to just stay away because I have no idea how much I can trust Boston. That's what it comes down to for me.
Who are Irving Grausbeck and Miriam Adelson? Those are the aliens in this series.
Oh, aliens.
If you're new to the sports bar, aliens, what we call owners.
Billionaire owners.
But in the NBA, they don't even call them billionaire owners. They're called governors. So the aliens that they call governors. Anyways, Grausbeck, he's valued at $1.8 billion, while Adelson, she's valued at $56.2 billion, making her the 56th richest person in the world. Her late husband made his money in casinos.
Get out of here.
In case you missed it, Mark Cuban sold the team, actually. Cuban still owns a minority stake in the Mavericks. He still controls basketball operations.
You can make money in casinos? There's money to be made at casinos? Stop it.
Well, that seems to be the play here because of all the places in our country that is yet to legalize gambling, Texas? Texas has yet to do this. Well, they're pushing for it. And where the Mavericks are, you're talking about, okay, can you build this massive casino with the Mavericks as part? That's the long-range play down there, apparently. After making his first rehab start, Yankee ace Garrett Cole says he's definitely close to returning, although he's not going to be getting the call-up just yet, but he was good last night. 3 1/3 scoreless innings, his 45 pitch count, striking out 5 for Double-A Somerset. Cole getting up to 97 miles an hour on the radar gun. Second rehab start is coming up Saturday. If the Yankees want a third, and if they want to move him up to AAA for that third, that start would be in Rochester next week.
Hey! What do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
Yeah. They couldn't say he was up. They want to make sure that he's feeling good and now put him back to back. I don't think he gets a third start.
The fact that the Yankees are doing what they're doing without their ace still blows my mind. Heel is unbelievable. They're just
Heel, and this was a topic on WFAN. And forgive me because I didn't know who the host was, but two hosts going back and forth, and one host says what Heel is doing right now is better what Doc Gooden did in 1985. What? Got all angry and everything, and then you present the stats, and it's like, wait a second, because Gooden came in with all the hype, and he had the fastball. What Heel is doing right now, doing it last night to his former team. By the way,
we need a good nickname. We get him a good nickname, and everybody will say Dwight who? Dr. K owned us, right? We were all about Dr. K when Gooden came into the league. He'll need something like that. This Skeens is going to get his run as well.
That's because more New Yorkers are behind the Mets because we come up with kitschy things like that.
We need a nickname. He needs a nickname, Gene.
I think people let's start here. How many people call him? Hey, Lewis Gill is on the air. Gill is on the mound tonight. Hey, Gill against it's Heel.
Heel a monster? Nah. That's a lizard, right? Yeah. That's like a dragon. Yeah, I don't know. He needs a good nickname, though. You'll forget about Dr. K if Heel keeps pitching this way and has a good nickname.
Look, that's up to the Yankee fan base. Met fan base who came up with the Dark Knight, Thor. Like, you had all these different, all these different nicknames. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's like, this Thor. Guy is Thor. That was very short. He's still kicking around somewhere.
Yeah.
So, Yankees again against the Twins tonight. We may now know the reason why Jonte Porter, the Toronto Raptors, was purposely tanking so that his prop bets would go under, which that got him a big suspension. Well, according to one report, he was in debt to some very bad people. The New York Post reporting that gambling debts, beginning of the year, he was encouraged to tank on his stats in a few games in order to pay off those debts. This is my favorite part of the story, Danger. A 38-year-old man named Long Phi Pham, a.k.a. Bruce. He was arrested trying to go from JFK to Australia on a one-way ticket, trying to lay low there. Pham trying to leave the country a day after the government attempted to question him. Pham facing up to 20 years in prison for wire fraud connected to this. How much Porter was in debt here? I guess we're eventually going to find out.
Enough to be scared enough to throw games, to not perform at a high level.
This is like some movie stuff, right?
Exactly right.
Like we're going to sit down and we're going to work this out.
And you hear stories like this. You hear Jonte Porter and you say, well, if that's true, what else is true? Like, how often does this happen? How many guys are in this deep hole that they can't claw out of? And this is their only way out.
Even with the deep hole, Danger, like, you can't bet a certain amount without the algorithm tripping off on all these sites and realizing, wait a second, something's off. Why are people...
They can limit you, but I've found that they'll limit you when it's high stakes, or they'll limit you when they see something suspicious. And if this came across as suspicious, then they will limit you.
Yeah, I would think that why is all this money coming in on Porter props? Yeah. Finally, how can people actually be so smart to get on Jeopardy, Danger? Yeah, when it comes to when they ask a sports question, it's like a foreign language. And I know you don't watch Jeopardy, I don't, so let me bring you the highlights from yesterday.
21st Century Sports 400. In 2007, this National League squad became the first team with 10,000 losses. In 2008, they won the World Series behind Cole Hamels and Ryan Howard. Christina.
Who are the Chicago Cubs?
No, I'm sorry.
Ouch.
It's a good guess, but it's the Phillies. Becky.
Oh, God.
Actually, Danger.
That was for 400?
Yeah. Prove it. I look, I don't believe the Phillies won the World Series.
Oh.
That
was 2000, what did they say, 2008?
2008.
You forgot 2008?
I don't remember anything about the Phillies.
The internet existed in 2008. I'm sure you can find footage of it. Can you find footage of the Rochester Royals basketball team anywhere on the internet?
I don't think you can, actually.
We started our show today talking about, I don't know, it just kind of was a conversation that started with me talking about my bloody sock from my dad run.
Your bloody sock from the dad run. And then I brought up, you say bloody sock to a sports fan, like, you know, and what sparked this was I saw a recent story where Danica Patrick went on a podcast and she gave her, hey, which conspiracy theory do you believe in the most? She said, I don't think we put a man on the moon. What? And some people believe that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I disclosed, like, if there was a sports conspiracy theory that I subscribe to, I think that Curt Schilling faked the bloody sock.
That it wasn't real.
Right. That there was a lot of injury, and he did that for dramatic purposes. And game, it worked. This team won the World Series, and they rallied around him, and he gave the innings he needed to. And sure, his ankle was hurting, but come on, all of a sudden it's going to start to bleed. What are we doing here?
I tell you, man, maybe he had a situation like I did. I didn't even realize I was bleeding. I didn't feel any pain. I just had a blister from something earlier in the weekend. And when I took off my shoe, I'm like, oh my God. This looks like a crime scene. What am I doing? He had a wound that I didn't realize I was wounded. And so you brought up the Schilling sock thing being fraudulent. That's your conspiracy theory. I contend that Wilt Chamberlain did not score 100 points in a single game. I don't care if the guy held up a sign in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I want to see footage. I want to believe, but I don't because he's the same guy who said he slept with over 10,000 women in his lifetime. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, what's funny is that we put this out. Well, I didn't put it out. Peter put it out to the poll, and we retweeted out. Now it's all of a sudden in the after hours here starting to take some life on its own. Anthony Marino, who we've had on the show before, you can see them smack the Knicks draft card against the side of the bin. It has to be the 1985 lottery. Weighing in, hey, it's Sal Capaccio. It's totally the 1985 lottery. The sock isn't even a finger quote conspiracy. Oh, yes, it is, Sal. Don't tell me what. And then Sal bringing up another one. I'd include Jordan's first retirement high on this list. Ooh, that's a good one.
When he went to play baseball.
Yeah, that was actually the gambling suspension the NBA handed down, but they didn't want to say that. So, like, okay, you know what, get lost for a few
Exactly
years.
Like what I was just saying about Jonte Porter, right? Like, if that's true, then what else is true? That could be that's plausible.
Well, look, if you people believe that, and then it gets really dark on that because there are people that actually believe his old man got murdered.
Yes. And honestly, like that feels like it could check out. I know that The Last Dance didn't really give us closure on that.
For the reason why, in order to get the buy-in, you can't really delve into that when Jordan is there, right?
That's a series I would watch. You know, the circumstances around the death of Michael Jordan's father and somebody unearthing that it was indeed gambling that drove him out of the NBA for 3 years.
We have not a million, not a billion, like a gazillion true crime podcasts and shows and everything, and nobody has done the topic of the murder of Michael Jordan's father.
Maybe they have.
Maybe they have,
and we haven't. It hasn't crossed our feed yet. You know, that algorithm just screws itself up all the time. Yeah, that was a $400 question. That should have been. That felt like a pretty easy one.
Yeah,
but apparently not if you're on Jeopardy. The Chicago Cubs? No.
Do you want another one here?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
let's
go.
later in the category.
Like Sci-Fi's Anywhere or Phoenix Gate, it opened on October 15th, 2018 to whisk college athletes to a new school.
Hold on a second. I missed the beginning of that question.
Yep. It kind of glitched on me here. Here we go.
800.
A bit like Sci-Fi's Anywhere or Phoenix Gate, it opened on October 15th, 2018 to whisk college athletes to a new school. They call it the transfer portal.
I had a hard time understanding what that question was. I'm sorry, it wasn't a question. It was the answer.
It was the answer. Yeah, that's how
It's
they do
Jeopardy. Is that Ken Jennings hosting?
it. It's Ken Jennings, yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything bad about a guy that is that much smarter than I am, but I miss Alex.
Alex was like,
I miss Alex.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I'm just so smart. No.
Yeah, just with I have all the answers and you do not. Last call is next. We have time for your calls at 866-4FAN. 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's last call in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We appreciate you stopping by and spending some of your Wednesday afternoon with us. NBA Finals get underway tomorrow. PJ Glasser stopped by, the host of BetQL's Send It In, presented by BetMGM. You can hear on the BetQL network. He gave us some of his favorite plays for tomorrow night's Game 1 between the Celtics and the Mavs. We also got some winners on the diamond from PJ today. And then Anthony Cosenza of the Cincy Jungle, the Orange and Black Insider, he stopped by to give us a little insight on this offseason here for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is fascinating to me in a lot of different ways, starting with the idea that you've got a wide receiver about to play on the franchise tag and another one looking to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league.
You normally don't see non-quarterbacks go down the, Cousins and, of course, Dak Prescott being the biggest examples, but Le'Veon Bell at running back for a wide receiver. Have we had a player go under the tag here? I don't understand the strategy here for the Bengals here. They seem to be behind the curve there. You got to be out in front of things. They are not. So what happens with Jamar Chase? But then again, they have Joe Burrow, Lou Anarumo. I mean, can they cobble together enough wins and they get back to the postseason? If you have the quarterback, Danger, it is the world's best deodorant.
Quickly, before we close up shop, because a lot of people are still discussing what's going on in the WNBA. And look, why are we talking about the WNBA now, Gene? It turns out it's popular. A lot of people are talking about the WNBA right now because it's popular right now.
And Caitlin Clark is the number one reason. Can we acknowledge that is what has brought us over there?
So Cameron Brink is another rookie in the WNBA. She played for Stanford. And, she is also in the WNBA struggling here, but hasn't been as much of a topic as Caitlin Clark, obviously. She recently did an interview with Uprocks, and what I love about what she had to say is it's what I wish more of us in the media kind of like gathered around and thoughtfully like shared as far as our thoughts on what's going on in the WNBA. And as far as her and Caitlin Clark and the comparison there, she even says in this article, quote, "I feel like Caitlin Clark has the worst right now, but even I get that. She had 3 points the other night. I had 3 points the other night. We're expected to be perfect. It's freaking exhausting." But what she said as far as her legacy, she was asked the question, finish this sentence, "I will not rest until." Cameron's response was, "I will not rest until the W is even more iconic than it is now." And then asked as a follow-up, what part do you want to play in that? And this is the part that I love. Mm-hmm. I could go way deeper into this, but I would just say growing the fan base to support all types of players. I will acknowledge there's a privilege for the younger white players of the league. That's not always true, but there is a privilege that we have inherently, and the privilege of appearing feminine. Some of my teammates are more masculine. Some of my teammates go by they, them pronouns. I want to bring more acceptance to that and not just have people support us because of the way that we look. I know I can feed into that because I like to dress femininely, but that's just me. I want everyone to be accepted, not just paid attention to because of how they look. Now, if you don't know who Cameron Brink is, you would know her if you saw her.
She looks like a model,
She's
right?
stunning.
Yeah.
She's tall. She's blonde. She looks like she could be at the Met Gala. Maybe she even was at the Met Gala. I have to ask my kids. But her point of view on this, when I saw that, I'm like, that's very self-aware. That's bigger than the game. I wish we would hear more of that in the conversation that seems to be happening right now around the WNBA.
Yeah, I think where we are sampling this, and I just want to watch the basketball, so much of the conversation is veered off into things that about privilege and race and everything else that, like, really, you don't come to sports for.
Correct.
You're coming into the restaurant, give us the game, here's the game. I don't want to be thinking about all these other things in the world. Let me just focus on the game. And she's saying that in a way like, hey, look.
She's acknowledging it.
Yeah.
I have that. And some of us have that. Not all of us, but some of us do, and I have that, and I acknowledge that. But that I thought was refreshing to hear from a pro athlete, and especially from a rookie pro athlete in the WNBA. I'm still out. I'm still going to wait. I want the dust to settle. I want to see something great happen when the greatness begins and we can see it consistently.
And for folks who aren't familiar with your take, you weren't into men's college basketball for a long time just by the quality of the play.
I just want
you like it at the NBA standard.
I have a standard. I want to see greatness, and I know that we'll see it in time. I'll wait and let the dust settle a little bit. I won't watch the UFL in the spring, even though I love football, because I'm not going to watch something that is a lesser quality product than what I'm accustomed to. JR Sport Brief is on the way next. We're back tomorrow starting at 3 with a brand new show. Catch up now in the free-to-download Odyssey app.
You're listening to the Sport.